And
Well, I mean, like, there's like the balance is attributed weirdly in Warframe. There's like specific people that handle the balance of specific things. So like there's like Pablo, and he's in charge of these Warframes and their balance. And then there's like Scott, who is in charge of other Warframes and their balance, and like looking at weapons and their balance and stuff. And they're like they seem to be pretty completely separated in a lot of cases. Like they talk a little bit, it seems like, but not overly much.
but shouldn't all the Warframes be balanced together?
Yes. Things that should happen and things that do happen are unfortunately different, I think.
I don't understand.
So that's like, yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah, chat. They should. You're absolutely right. Yep.
I don't. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Over it then.
Mm-hmm.
Uh.
Yeah. This has now frustrated you, hasn't it? And you don't even play Warframe.
Well, I don't understand from a structural like, okay, can I tell you how I feel this has happened?
Yeah.
Can I tell you how I feel this has happened?
Yes.
You have company makes game.
Uh-huh.
People love game.
Yeah.
Company grow game.
Uh-huh.
People love game.
Uh-huh.
Company keep growing game. Company go, this too much for team. Company hire people.
Uh-huh.
People go, we love game. Company hire more people. Someone who player balance goes, help, I can't do everything on my own.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we split in half. We give half to this man.
Yeah.
So it feels like the company has grown, but no one's done a restructure.
Yeah, that's probably extremely accurate.
Like, I just feel like they need somebody to come in and go, okay, so I organize and put labels on things.
Uh-huh. And so do you want to know what's really interesting to me? So the kind of different, like, let's call them like department heads from my point of view, like Rebecca leads all of the community outlook stuff and all that stuff. I would say that from like where Rebecca is, her and her community team, I think are extremely well organized, and they have a hierarchy that like works fantastically, and everybody like works super well within that. They're all like aces at what they're doing, right? And it's super organized, and it just works with what everyone else is doing. And the art team and the sound teams they seem to have absolutely no issue with kind of anything, and like they just integrate into what everyone else is doing. But like story and direction of like the game as a whole, and like putting all the pieces together and balance, it always seems like they don't really give a fuck what everyone else is doing.
Huh. Frustrating. Do they have producers?
There is a producer. He stopped appearing on dev streams a while ago, inexplicably. And he's been in charge of some like economy stuff before, and that has almost never gone well, if I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Well, a producer shouldn't be in charge of a true producer should only really they should be like an operations manager, like the person who does all the admin stuff to help organize everybody else.
As far as I know, he's like the studio producer.
I have a fear that they don't have an actual producer. So Naughty Dog recently came out and talked about how they as a studio have never had producers. Each department should operate like everyone should operate like they're their own producer. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons that I won't like just dive into.
Right.
Namely being crunch and organization and all sorts of those things.
Right, which are huge problems.
But I have a feeling that Warframe may work the same way, and it's contributing to their disorganization, because it's not for any bad reason. It's not DE bad. It's just that
it's just disorganization, which can happen to like any company.
Right, but that disorganization can lead to really weird, messy communication.
Yeah, I agree.
But I find it upsetting that I've learned the last couple of days, because this stuff about Naughty Dog has come out. More and more studios operate that way. You know who else operates that way and has issue getting games out?
EA?
Valve.
Valve. Well, Valve is like a problem on top of a problem for that, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
Because they have
But
a
I'm just
weird
saying,
studio
like,
policy where everyone just works on whatever they want.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's just kind of the thing. Is like, there's no producer, so there's no one to lead. Like, the problem is that you need not somebody who's in charge, but you need somebody whose job is to help organize everybody to work collectively together.
Right.
Right. And that's their only job, is to just make sure that the right hand knows what the left hand knows what the foot is doing.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so when you don't have that, and you're saying, well, okay, on top of your, instead of, okay, hand, instead of knowing what all your fingers are doing, I also need you to understand what the other hand is doing and what the foot is doing.
Yeah.
And that it's too much. It's unrealistic, because then you have to rely on not just that one person to know what's going on, but for the other two to effectively communicate with that person what everything in their department is, to be able to condense all that information and share it in a way that's effective in driving towards a singular goal.
Right. So, to go with that, this is an excellent point that like ties directly into that. So you know how I've been complaining a shitload about Railjack, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the big reasons for that is because Warframe, as it is balanced currently, the actual like regular game of Warframe, I quite enjoy. I think certain things should be more powerful, and there's like some like little things here and there, and like there's balance changes to be made. But the gameplay itself, I enjoy, right? The Railjack stuff feels like the balance team had no part in it. Like the normal balance team had no say in it whatsoever, and that Steve took it upon himself, or whoever, no, not blaming anyone specifically, but someone else like from a different department took over and did their own thing, because the damage types are all brand new, completely different, and a lot of them don't work. And all like the way, like the pace of the pacing of Railjack is that of like a slow, like Gears of War style thing, and it's completely at odds with how Warframe is regularly played, and it sucks and it's not fun. So like it's just not, it doesn't match up with like the fun of Warframe. It's not building on that in any way. It's not doing the same thing, and they seem like that they don't want to change it for whatever reason, which I can only imagine is that someone thinks it should be that way whenever Warframe just isn't that game.
It's like people that balanced Warframe and the people that balanced Railjack never met in real life.
Yeah, exactly.
See, it's problematic. I just have a feeling that DE is still operating like, okay, so DE was a pretty small studio before Warframe.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean, they just were.
It was like a reasonable sized studio.
But they were still pretty indie.
Yeah,
mainly,
well, they were a support studio. They did like the BioShock 2 multiplayer and stuff. Like it was somewhere between like 40 to 60 people, I would say.
Right. They were support, right?
Yeah,
they were a side studio basically, which I hold like in the same realm as indies.
Sure.
Like size-wise and like management style and like things that they can get away with, because they're flying a little bit more. When you're an indie studio, you fly a little bit more by the seat of your pants, because everyone's still figuring it out. Right?
Yeah.
People we're still trying to figure out how to exist. We haven't hit our big break. Yeah. So I feel like DE is still operating that way. And I feel like the problem is that there is a way to grow an organization, but the old guard has to get out of the way. And what I mean by that is they have to be able to set their egos aside and say, this studio needs a level of organization and just general growth that they don't have. I can't do alone.
Yeah, that's fair. Because and that's like, it's exacerbated because there have been like periods where like the content drops were fast and it was like at a pace and like it was all in line, and like it was specifically whenever they were doing like specific Warframe quests, they were trying to release a Warframe and a quest to go with that Warframe and a little bit of story as like an update, and then like put it out, and like that's that, right? They did that for like a good set of months, and it was all great, and it felt really organized, and like it was fast. Like they were just like cranking it out, essentially, is what it felt like. And like now it's just like, since Fortuna, which was like their giant, like obviously successful update, it has been like just kind of a mess like the whole time. unfortunately.
Well, I mean, let's not blame it all on Warframe. Like, if we look at Warframe as a game, take the studio out of it, take out any faults of the studio out of it. That's a big ass game.
Oh no,
and
100%.
Like, you introduce one new thing, and you have to account for
all the other
Warframes
things.
Are there now? How many playable Warframes are there now?
43, 44.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, the madness of trying to balance that many characters to this one new thing is gonna take forever.
Yeah, obviously, yeah,
and
very much.
And then not only do you have to, like, not only do you have to go, okay, here's this one new thing that I'm introducing these 40 characters to, and how this is how they all interact with this thing.
Yep.
So let's balance that. Now we need to make sure that while we've balanced that these are all still balanced together.
So do you know what that has led to?
Go on.
So the way that D has designed things in like recent times is just to make none of the Warframe's like unique things work on the content. Like there's a big boss that's like a big spider orb thing. There's two of them.
I've seen it.
Yeah, those. Almost all Warframe powers have literally 0 effect on them. So the whole meta for those boils down to buffing yourself because you are the only thing you can affect in that fight because of this problem.
See, this is why I'm of the stance. Oh, go on.
And on top of that, until this next upcoming patch, which is when they're going to start trying to revert this thing that they did, they've made all important enemies in the game immune to statuses. So crit was the only thing you could do.
Yeah. So can I tell you, this is a good time to bring up the fact why I'm on board for team like Warframe 2, if you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds terrible, but it needs a damn reset. The game is so bloated by the number of Warframes and content, by the amount of content, that it's not sustainable for almost any studio to push out content in a realistic time frame that makes good sense. Because the amount of balancing you have to do is beyond.
Right. So, but the problem with that is that, like, the way that they've built the game and, like, the level of investment that you have to put into the game in general.
Yep.
And, like, to get to the progression levels that exist now, if they did a reset, like, so many people wouldn't even give it a try.
I agree. I'm not saying that that's not a problem.
Right.
I am saying that from a game design standpoint, they've built a nightmare. So they're stuck.
Yeah.
From a game design standpoint, they've built a nightmare.
Right.
But from a player-based standpoint, ain't nobody want to start over.
Yeah.
So
I think that there is, because Warframe lacks structure almost inherently, I think that there is an opportunity in Warframe that they could go in and get somebody and be like, we are going to structure this fucking video game and we are going to like take it apart and put it back together where everything like makes sense to go, and that it could just work and be much better than it is now. Like take the sum of its parts and then just put a fucking X somewhere to multiply it and make everything work. And it would be an immense amount of work, but I think it would be worth it.
What do you mean?
Like, I think there's an opportunity for them to restructure it and, like, take the content that they have and, like, make it more obvious and matter to people. Like, it would require, like, a massive, like, rebalancing of, like, the way the game works, essentially. And they would need to add a lot of things that kind of actually connect things so that people know about the content that's already in the game. But it would help immensely, I think. Like, being able to structure content to push people towards doing certain types of content and then including new rewards to give people the reasons to go to these places in kind of like end goals, right?
Yeah, but the problem is that still leaves a design nightmare.
Do you mean just because there's so much?
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna get out of that though.
They got to. If not, you're gonna continue getting what you're getting. So they either have to, or you have to. The player base needs to become okay with, well, none of my powers as a Warframe fucking matter. So I guess I'll just be in this for the skin. Well,
so the players have, as per the Warframe usage chart that they released, players have pretty much done that. The Warframe Inaros, his main ability is that he is a giant bag of health that cannot be stopped, and that ability cannot be nullified. The rest of his abilities have very little effect on kind of the world around him besides some light crowd control, light to heavy crowd control. And he is the most played Warframe at the highest mastery rank levels where people are no longer leveling new content.
Interesting. So, do they just need to redesign Warframes to have less impact on the world around them?
If they do
if
that,
so how do you make 40 of them do that?
Right. So the problem is that people like those Warframes that do things to the world around them.
Yeah, but again, so then you run it back into, right? So then circle back into they've made a design disaster.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel for the Warframe team because I look at the amount of shit that they have to, anytime they want to add anything, they have to look at so many variables and how they interact, and then how those things interact with each other, and then how those things interact with each other. Right. And so then they have to be so careful not to break anything, because if they break anything with it, community's going to lose it. Right? So instead they go the other direction and they just make the Warframes not matter. Right, which is what they've done. Frustrating. Right.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because people want to use the Warframes, but what we end up using is just Warframes that affected themselves so that they can affect things around them.
Right, which then people are still pissed off because they can't use the Warframes they want to use.
But the reason they've fallen into that is because DE doesn't want to let people break their new toy that they put out. They just want people to do it at like the designed as pace. And a great example of that is, that exploiter orb thing that we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
So Nova has a very unique ability where she can basically send out an orb, fill it with damage, and then it explodes, and it does that exact damage to everything in the area simultaneously, right?
Yep.
There are 4 exhaust pipes on Exploiter that you destroy one and the rest freeze, and you need to unfreeze them to destroy them. What Nova could do is she could do that exact damage to all of them simultaneously to essentially skip 3 of those and push you ahead in the fight.
Yep.
And that was awesome and cool and a great use of Nova. And there were a couple different Warframe powers that could do that. And then they nerfed it to change it so no Warframes can do a unique thing anymore. So now everyone uses Inaros on that fight because he's a big wad of health.
Remember when I told you that a good DM will encourage creativity in solutions?
Yeah.
And they'll be flexible and not like, when I told you, someone brought up the pebble problem with D&D, right? Like if you have 3 pebbles, can you throw them all at once? Yeah. And the answer is basically you should have a DM who lets you at least attempt to break it, right?
Right.
Because if that DM looks at his paper and goes, no shit, if they do this, it'll kill my monster. I can't have this happen. This is what I designed.
Exactly.
The minute you get into that kind of conversation with your players, whether it be in a D&D group or in mass, is that there's you've broken what makes it fun.
Yeah. So it's because instead of having this unique Warframe specific strategy, we have a fight that is the same across all of the 40 plus Warframes. Except for this one, because he has a lot of health.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, D is such a super talented team, and they've built a problem that I don't think that as a company they can really make a solution to. They're between a rock and a hard place, and the problem is that there's not a clear way out.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, I think there's not a clear way out, but I feel like if it was their focus, if someone was focusing them to be able to do it, like if they had somebody come in who had like an actual grand vision for how these things should work, then they could get it like wrangled for the most part. Like it wouldn't fix all the problems, but on the whole, I think it would change the game much for the better and focus it in a way that more people would enjoy much more than they do currently, and the game would be more understandable. Because you'd have to have someone take it and actually put a roadmap into the game, as opposed to have what they have now, which is a bunch of islands. And nobody really knows how to get to these islands for the most part, especially as a new player. You kind of have to be around for the update in order to know where you're going.
The biggest thing that I've heard you say about Warframe over and over and over and over and over again is that, like, well, you found this thing, but the only way you found out about this thing is that somebody else found out about this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, Warframe forces you to be involved with the community just so you know how to play the game.
Yeah.
Or like that you can get the most out of the game.
Yeah, because the biggest advice to any new player is open the wiki on your second monitor.
See, and that's
it's not good.
It's so frustrating.
Yep.
It's so frustrating. I mean, I do think the community should engage with one another. I think the Warframe does really good at like making the community talk to each other.
Yep.
Problem is it shouldn't be
absolutely necessary to know anything.
Tell you, I jumped into Warframe. My starting player Warframe, right?
Right.
I hopped in, I started playing, I jumped around. It took me through the how to do basic movements, like
right.
really like how to parkour, how to do these things, right?
Yep.
First of all, I immediately forgot because they throw so much at you at one time.
Yep.
They just do. They're just like, okay, welcome to level 1. Here's how to do these 19 things that you need to reach these huge texts for, and then you should know. And
part of that is because the tutorial started you on abilities and then gave you movement.
Which is bizarre to me, but okay.
Yeah.
And then it kind of drops you and it's like, do these things. And there's no thrust for why you're doing them.
Yep.
Zero thrust. Zero, like, you're doing this because. And so then at that point, I'm just playing a game where I'm jumping and shooting and trying to remember how to switch weapons. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, there is a thrust, but it is like said like one time.
But that's the most terrible thing.
Yeah, I agree.
They don't.
Because right at the beginning of the game, you escape that stuff, and like there's this like very like sort of a plot where like Vor is trying to capture you or whatever that everyone instantly forgets. So the actual thrust is like, I guess I'm turning the stuff on this ship back on. So like the beginning of the game needs like a full overhaul, which they know. And so do you want to know what's like super wild style?
Go on.
So at the last TennoCon, they showed off a brand new intro cinematic for the game, right?
Yep.
That was the thing that they did. It was big, impressive, cool, looks awesome, way different than anything in the way that the game starts out right now. That was last TennoCon. We are getting close to this next TennoCon. That cinematic is not only not in the game, the rework of the like intro stuff to the game to like get people in, nothing has changed at all.
See,
like they got that made by like an impressive studio that did a great job, and nothing has been done to try and implement it or put it into the game at all.
And maybe they were going to introduce its introduction at this TennoCon, right? They introduced the cinematic last TennoCon. Yeah. They introduced the rework this TennoCon, maybe, right? Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
But like, even so, it's just so frustrating for someone who doesn't play the game, is that there are clear things that Warframe could do. There's a clear roadmap on what Warframe could do to improve, even if you can't really fix in-game right now.
Right.
If they went through and just did quality of life improvements for like the game, like getting people to invest in the game.
Yep.
That would get them so far, right? And build fucking roads.
Yeah, and with that, so what they recently did was like a gigantic like balance pass and changing a lot of things people have hated for a long time, like self-damage, and like changing how that works to make those weapons actually like reasonably viable and not just annoying. And they went through and they changed a ton of stuff. And it was, I think, in recent memory, the most positive like thing they've done to the game. Like most people, I would say, very happy with what like happened in the game. Like many positive changes, great stuff. People really appreciated it. But if they could do what they just did, which is for the most part make like just sweeping improvements to the game in terms of connecting everything, then like that would be a great step towards like getting that new player stuff in, like changing some things in the midpoint, adding some dialogue to push you towards certain types of content and like bring people together, like doing that type of thing. Just that stuff hasn't been done. They don't have anybody with some crushed up bread to put breadcrumbs between things, which is what they really need to do.
No, I genuinely agree. Like, I would play Warframe if I had that, but I need that. I need a thrust to care. Yeah,
like you need to know where to go, like plain and simple. You need to know why you need to go there and like what to go to. Because like
genuinely, for a new player, it's not my job to find a reason to care.
Right, exactly.
That sounds bad, but it's true.
No, it's true. And okay, so this is an obscure thing that is one of the most frustrating things in the game. If you have so there's these things called dragon keys, and they open dragon vaults, right? Following so far, this is obscure.
Okay.
Dragon keys, dragon vaults. The dragon vaults are located on Orokin derelicts. Orokin derelicts require specific keys in order for you to get into them. And they are their own node way off on the side of the star chart that's not connected to anything else. The only way to get the blueprints to build the dragon keys is to build a clan and build a room that has no other purpose at current except for to house those keys. And that room is connected to an old dead mechanic that is no longer relevant. Those keys used to be on the marketplace, but were moved to this room for no fucking reason. So you need to know that you need to build this obscure room that doesn't do what it says because it just has these keys in it. And you take those, and then you build those keys, and then you build the keys to get to the Orokin Derelict, which is this obscure side thing. And then you go there, and then you need to have all four of, or each person in your party needs to have one of those keys. And then you have to find the vault and match the key and put that key in there and open it up. And that obscure ass shit that you need to do pretty reasonably early in your progression is the way you get the most powerful mods in the game. And nothing, not one single thing anywhere ever points you to that. There is not one singular breadcrumb anywhere.
Okay, you lost me after Dragon Keys.
No, that's fair. And and I should have. And I should have. Mirage's quests no longer you don't have to do that anymore. You don't build that quest anymore. Those Orokin ciphers that you also get out of those, that you don't build Mirage's quest anymore. That's not a thing you do. There's zero breadcrumbs. There's no way to know that you can go do that.
Unless you know.
Unless you know. If you're around, and if you knew in the past, the Dragon Key blueprints have moved to a place that's even more obscure than they were originally.
Okay, so back to...
Right. So, but isn't that frustrating though? That that really important thing has zero.
Yeah. No, I mean then and this is so you asked me what stops me from playing Warframe, and it's stuff like this. It's that I know Warframe is like this.
Right.
It's that I know that I will have to spend my off time playing this game, researching this game, to understand how to play this game.
Also, so you said you got to MR6, right?
Yeah.
As a MR6 player, for me, going through the game and knowing what I'm supposed to do, I would have already gotten a suite of those mods at MR 4.
I don't even know what or how.
Right, because you had no direction to go and do it.
No.
Obviously. So
these things.
Yeah, so you just did the thing that the game puts in front of you, which is you level new weapons that you get, because obviously you want to get new weapons, and then when the button lights up, you click the mastery rank up, right?
Yep.
Exactly. And so that's the direction the game gave you, but the actual important progression is they don't show it to you anywhere. And that's not and it's not your fault at all, because without outside help from someone who's already done it all, who has 10,000 hours, who has a fucking PhD in Warframe, there's no way for you to know what you needed to do.
Can we just agree that the skill cap on Warframe is so high, but the basic just entry point of knowledge is so high.
For
Warframe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I agree.
It's so high. You can't pick up Warframe and just enjoy it.
Yeah. Well,
you can.
So you
can, but
yeah. I love going into streams of people who are trying Warframe out and coming to it, because there's a very specific point where every person will have one of two reactions. They will open the mod station for the first time and either go, what the fuck is this, or go and have no idea what they're looking at, have absolutely zero idea.
Me.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's the same for everybody. Because it doesn't. There's no Or it tells you, hey, put the thing in the slot, and you put the thing in the slot, and you open it up, and you go, I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at. I have no idea.
So, oh, that's so frustrating. Because like when I don't consider myself stupid.
Right, and you shouldn't, because you're not.
There's very few things that I pride myself on, but my knowledge is my intelligence is one of them. My knowledge, Jesus,
that's fair.
My intelligence is one of them,
as evidenced by your like very high ability to like learn new games.
So, but what's frustrating is that I have never felt more inept, and what really turned me off of Warframe is I never felt more dumb than the minute I opened up the Warframe modding console, or like just like that whole screen of like, here's the mods, add them, and I don't understand.
Yeah. Yep. I
don't. And
absolutely
then it's
agree.
like, and then someone looks at me, is like, oh well, you want this many whatever level, or what? There's levels to mods, and like, what does that mean, and what does that look like? And can somebody teach me? Can the game teach me how to game?
Exactly.
And it doesn't, and it can't. And so then at this point, the barrier of entry for me, if a game's gonna make me feel that dumb, and it won't give me how to get smarter at it, it won't give me the resources to learn.
Right.
What do I do?
Right. So because like the equivalency that we're like discussing here in like Magic terms for you, because like this is for Magic terms for kind of anybody, I suppose, is like whenever you encountered Magic the Gathering, you got a Commander Precon, right? Which is maybe a bit more of an advanced way to learn that game, but like you can be told the basics of it very simply. Like you could just read a thing and know the basics of it, and then you can just receive the information. Reading the card explains the card, right? And then you got there. You had to play some games, but then you got there. It wasn't the case of someone gave you a deck and said play it, and it's the most complicated deck in the format.
Yeah.
Like you didn't get thrust into top 8 like finals tournament, like play this deck you've never played before, you don't even know the rules of the game, which is what Warframe does. You got handed a starter deck with like a little slip on like what you do.
Yeah.
Which is important.
And that's good games have a ramp system for their complexity.
Right.
Right. And your early game should be, here's how you do this, here's how you do this. Now let's introduce one extra mechanic at a time.
Right.
In a way that's intelligent, in a way that's intuitive. And whether some games introduce more at once, which is fine. Right. Right. And those are harder. Those have a higher barrier of entry. But Warframe doesn't have any of that. Yeah. It's here's a little bit of this, here's a little bit how to do that, and then fuck you, you're on your own.
Yeah, and then here's the full thing.
And that and that's not even the full thing from what I'm hearing. It's just like, but here's instead of taking steps, it's like, oh, okay, great. Now we're gonna shove you up this ledge.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
like it hits you with write me a thesis paper.
Yeah.
Like it's like what do you do? Point the gun and shoot. Do a jump man. Go collect this thing from this place. Okay, these are video game objectives. And then you get back to the ship, and it's like, put the thing in the slot. It's like, okay, I know how to do that. I've done this before. This is a video game. And then it goes, write me a dissertation.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And you're like, wait a minute. I don't know. This is not a thing.
Right. Because instead of it going, here's how to write a dissertation with quite a few steps and like a beginner's guide, they go, write me the dissertation. Do it right now. We're not going to explain it to you. You should know. Look at these mods. Aren't they impressive? Look at them. They're all kinds of different colors and shit. What's fusion?
See, that's... See, as a new player, you don't understand. I have so many... For me, for the past 3-4 years, since I joined Twitch, the first game I watched on Twitch was Warframe. Most of my friends, do you know what they play?
Warframe. You know a bazillion Warframe partners.
I do, and they all know me, and we talk.
And you're dating one.
And I'm dating one.
Yeah.
Right? And we were like best buds before that. So, okay.
And Warframe is still an impenetrable mystery to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's so frustrating because all I want to, if I could, I would love to be able to even if it wasn't my game of choice,
right?
I would love to be able to hop in and be knowledgeable enough and have enough experience in Warframe to hop in and play with you.
But the thing
but
that you, but right, because the thing that you don't want to do is for me to look at you and go, put these mods in your weapon, you're good.
No,
but you,
I hate that.
Because you desire to understand what you're doing. Like, you don't want to just be told, oh, put these shinies in these holes, and then you can just play. You want to actually get it. Because you desire to actually, like, understand. Which is just, like, the barrier to entry on that is absurd.
Yeah, I mean, I love Warframe for so many reasons. I don't play. So for anyone who's joining who doesn't know, I'm his girlfriend. I don't play, but I've tried, and I'm MR6, and I suck. But I don't know. It's frustrating. I want to play. I've never been in a situation where I want to play a game, and I feel too stupid to play.
Yeah. Well, I think you have felt that way before, right? But like usually what normally happens is that your brain goes like, I'm too dumb for this or whatever, and you tell yourself that because you did that with Magic a little bit whenever like I started teaching you to play with Commander, because but then all I had to do was explain to you that like you're kind of starting above the ground floor, and then you were like, oh okay, I'm on like some more advanced shit, and like I'm gonna need a little bit more time, and then you spent that little bit more time and you're like, oh, I get this, right? But in Warframe, it's not a little bit more time that you need to spend, it's like 200 hours of figuring it out.
Right,
and
that's the thing.
And that's and that's just not, it's just not something that you like people can afford to do.
Well, and that's the thing. If I could look at you and I said, because like I'm very good at this, I will look at you sometimes and go, babe, I don't get it. Explain this, like, give me that one piece that I'm missing, because you're really good at going, oh, I know what she's missing to understand.
Right, exactly.
Like this happens with Magic combos and things like that, right? Where I'm like, I don't get. And you can explain to me the mechanic, and then I can apply that to all the things, because usually I'm just missing one small piece. But with Warframe, I don't even know what to ask. Right,
and it's because you take the first piece, but then you get like all the shit added on top of it immediately. Like great example. If you ask me, well, what elemental should I use on this weapon? Like say like we've already gone past the point of explaining that there are elemental mods. But you go, what elemental should I use? And then I look at you and I go, well, you can use heat, or you can take heat and electricity and combine them and make another elemental, but then you can have another elemental on top of that. And the order in which you put these mods into these things matters for what combinations you like. It gets like crazy explosive in terms of how complicated this shit is if you're actually trying to understand it and not just boiling it down to the answer that we can come to for people that know the whole thing, where it's like you put viral and heat in it. Because the answer is you put viral and heat in it. But you want to understand why you do such a thing, which is just not, it's just not a thing that you can like really explain to a new player at all. There's no thrust to put in on that, because that information is just not in the game. Like I can send you to a wiki page, but that's not the game, right?
Yeah, no, and I get it. And someone just said like almost all the answers are in the wiki, not hard to read. Fair,
right? But that's not the game.
Totally fair. But talking, okay, but hear me out, right? As a new player, the game, and this is what we're talking about, is that the game should, if the game wants to lead you to the wiki and the game's like, listen, if you want to learn how to play, head to this page in the wiki, then do so.
Right.
But if you're not tying people directly to the wiki on how to play your game, but you're also not explaining people how to play the game, you've got a problem.
Right, exactly.
And so like you either set the expectation that you require this wiki in order to play the game, or you should make a game that teaches you the game, right? There's a level of, because we're talking about barrier to entry,
right?
And so if you're not telling, say I'm a new player, I don't watch Twitch, and I'm new to Warframe.
this is not a rare case.
It's not a rare case. I don't watch Twitch, and I'm new to Warframe. I hop into the game and I start playing, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So then, what now? Where do I go? Because you know what I do? I turn off the game.
Yeah.
I
like
turn off the game.
Yeah, because like if the game is telling you to do a thing and you're not getting any answers on like where to even go.
Yep. And the problem is it's multi-pronged, right? So it's
right.
not only the wiki doesn't teach me, or the game doesn't teach me how to play the game,
right?
But the game doesn't even really do me a good job of why I'm playing the game.
Right. Like there's no immediate hook.
Nope.
At all.
So now I'm playing a game where I'm a space ninja,
mm-hmm.
and I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, or how to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I'm supposed to be doing this as a new player. A lot of games nowadays rely on wikis. Yes, but not for base game.
Right, exactly. A lot of games can rely on a wiki, but it's usually for like extra shit or optimizing or complicated shit that's like kind of at the end. Like what are you gonna do in say like a Destiny 2? If you want to in Destiny 2, I want to run the raid and I want to do it right. What are you gonna do? You're not just gonna jump into the raid. You're gonna go look up like a YouTube video on the raid and you're gonna watch it.
Yep.
You'll be like, oh, I understand, and then do it. Right? That's perfectly reasonable. But that's because you can do that because what the raid has been set up for you. Like you know what you're getting into before you do that content, which is why you sought out that YouTube video, because you've been told this is a difficult team-based exercise in gameplay.
Perfect example, Monster Hunter.
Yep.
I look at the wiki for Monster Hunter pretty often. We were looking at it tonight to figure out how to get all our mantles and in what order.
Yep.
Right? There is nothing wrong with that. But if I had to do that for Monster Hunter in base game to figure out how to start playing,
yep,
I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah, because
I wouldn't have.
Because the thing in Monster Hunter is it's like it pops up on screen. Go talk to this person. Go start this mission. And like they give you a lead in, and like they literally tell you pick a weapon, fight. And like the controls for your weapon are on screen, and like there's certain weapons that are more complicated than others, and that's fine. Like you might need to do a deep dive on like how does the charge blade work. I don't know. You have to charge a million different things, but that's why there's this curve of things. Because if you don't understand the charge blade, you can be like, I'm going to use a long sword. I hit things with long sword, things die. There's a reason that in Monster Hunter, all of low rank, which is not a small amount of missions, is what's considered tutorial. Because it's teaching you things that whole time. And it has a lot of stuff to help you learn. Because, like, yeah, the training place, big agree. The training place gives you, like, this full breakdown of, like, what can your fucking weapon do, bro? And, like, whenever you're going through the story, it's not difficult. But, like, if you're, like there's you have to go and build things, and, like, they push you towards to do all these things in the game. Are they going to give you all the information on, like, okay, I need to optimize an end game, End of Iceborne, MR100 plus set for my heavy bowgun? No. But that stuff doesn't have to be explained. As long as you get the basics and you get how to play, you don't need to. The game doesn't need to teach you how to be the best. The game needs to teach you how to play it, period.
The game needs to give you a sense of understanding. Because, perfect example, when I played low rank, high rank, I was not looking at what stat I was building. I wasn't looking at, I need crit. I wasn't looking at any of those things that you would look at for bow. That now I go, this is, okay, I get this.
Yeah.
I was just building the next set. Oh, I like this one. I'm going to equip this. Oh, it has more defense. Okay. I don't think I looked at like my stacks until I was out of high rank. Why? Because the game didn't teach me that, nor did I need it to.
Yeah.
I could be successful at the game because I was learning the different mechanics of all the monsters.
Yep.
Right? That's what the game sets you. It teaches you. If you think about the game, when you pick up any new weapon, I don't care if you pick it up today or you picked it up when you first started playing.
Yep.
It will teach you how to play it. It will teach you from the very beginning what your combos are, and you can do them over and over and over without any hand holding, without any weird needing to talk you through it.
Yep.
Until you get it. Right?
Exactly.
And it's not going to teach you rotation. It's not going to teach you what you should build for.
And it's not going to tell you what skills are good on the weapon. But like, and one of the major things is that like the way Warframe, or not Warframe, Monster Hunter is built is that whenever you encounter a thing, what you have doesn't really matter that much, because like the number one objective like that the game kind of faces you with, and it does this really early. It does it really early. It's like the first mission, survive.
Yep.
The first thing that you encounter in the game is don't die. Get out of this monster's way.
But it does it in such an engaging way.
Right.
Right.
It's hyper engaging, and it's in with the story, and it's like doing a lot of good things around that. But like it really hammers home the initial point. You don't want to be eaten. You are fragile.
Yeah. And that's great, but that's so amazing that it does that for you, because it does it in a way where there are some points in Monster Hunter where it feels a little hand-holdy, like,
right.
and that's fine. It's just because everyone is doing things so differently, right? But they're fast enough and they're concise enough that you're not spending any more than maybe 20 minutes, right, doing this thing, and it's helping you master these just basic skills.
And there are the optional missions that go into that as well. Because like there's a bunch of optional missions that like the thing with the new Iceborne mechanic, the claw tutorial.
Yep.
If you want to know how it works, go in there. It teaches you the whole thing. It does literally the whole thing. It does a full breakdown on it. If you need that, it gives it to you. Whereas like we went through recently on a stream, we went through the tutorials in Warframe, and it's like the beginning is like, yeah, move and shoot. And then the moment you get into anything more complicated, it's like this is not only is this not helpful, some of this isn't true.
See, that's so difficult. I mean, that's where the barrier of entry is, right? So I'm not saying that Warframe needs to be Monster Hunter, but Warframe needs to have something where you're not like, well, you should just know to go to the wiki because other games depend on wikis too. Yeah. So you open the game, you should be opening up a wiki. Well, no, that's not true. And that's not the case for many new players. It's not their job to make them want to research. Because, okay, if I really love a story of a game, if I hop into a brand new game and I don't understand what's going on, but the story is super engaging, I'll look up a wiki. Absolutely, because I want to know where that story goes. Right, but this has neither. This has neither thrust. Like, you get one little like tidbit of what the story is, like one little, and it's like the tiniest, like, I don't know what, 2 sentences or something. Right. Like it's real. It's real tiny. So off of that little itty bit, I'm supposed to go, man, I gotta know what happens next. Let me just go pop open this wiki to understand these massive systems that I have no idea how they work.
Right. And like what Warframe really needs is whenever it starts out, like you're going through like the planets and things, and like there's the whole Vor stuff. The beginning needs to be more engaging, and then there's this extremely important bit, and it's like kind of the hook for Warframe as a whole for a lot of people. I think the second dream, very important, huge story beat, really well done. The first cinematic quest, it's like extremely important to the game as a whole. The game doesn't actually push you towards it. There's no breadcrumb trail to bring you there. Like you go from Earth down to Mars and you kill the guy that's a part of the Vor. You do that, and then it kind of says whatever, dude. And it's like you can keep going through more planets, but it needs to bring you through. Because it's just not structured enough to bring you to the second dream. Because if you can get someone in the beginning like hooked on and like have an engaging story up to the second dream, then that player, I think, will be invested at that point. Because right now, for a normal person, I would say in general, or even people that like play games a lot, the point I would like, the person I would say is like an example for that is another streamer by the name of Angriest Pat. Good dude. He started Warframe fresh. And whenever he talked about the second dream on his podcast, do you know how many hours into the game he said he was?
Oh, no.
120 plus.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's when he got there.
Okay, so can I ask you a question? And I don't even know if you'll know this answer after all these years.
Okay.
But What kept you in Warframe in the beginning? If you remember, you may not, but I'm curious if you know.
Well, so for me, I'm the type of player that likes to collect all the things.
Okay.
And Warframe was the game that wasn't doing random drops with like random stats like Borderlands. I could build a thing and then have the thing. And I wanted to collect all the things.
So for you, it was just purely
having
the things?
Because when Warframe started out, and whenever I started playing, because I started playing at the beginning of Warframe, like, being a thing. Like, when it released on Steam is when I started.
Oh, okay. So you started from the beginning.
Yeah, I was at the get-go. There wasn't story. There wasn't this big overarching thing. It had a cool aesthetic, and I wanted to collect the weapons, and they were doing weekly content drops of new weapons and interesting things to do. And I was like, I'm in. I love collecting shit, and, like, these Warframes look cool. I like how this game looks, and like the reason I bought a Founders Pack is because I think they're doing something cool. So I'm gonna get this Founders Pack. I want this thing that's in the Founders Pack. I want this Warframe. I want to do the whole thing, right? And like that was what got me in. Obviously, Warframe is a way different, better game now, but like that was the hook for me. Was the fast updates and collecting all the things, because I'm a collector type player. I want to have all the things, or at least the most powerful things.
Sure. No, I mean, okay, I get that, actually. But the barrier entry sounds like it was still smaller because there was less to do even in the beginning. Yeah, the barrier to entry was, like, those mods I talked, like the corrupted mods I talked about before, that area didn't exist. There was one tile set, maybe two. I think it was maybe 2 tile sets total. So like there were very few like things to learn. There was a way tinier pool of weapons. The Warframes, I think there were 9 Warframes, maybe. That might even be a little high. I think that might be counting primes. Like the weapons it was way less of a thing. Like everything was smaller. The whole thing was smaller. Interesting. Yeah. Well,
fewer mods by such a degree that there was a point in Warframe where I think I had 180 some mods, and I was like, hell yeah, I collected every mod in the game. Right? I had all of them, and I had them like all pretty much leveled. And now, if I look at my collection in the codex, I have every single mod, and the only ones that aren't leveled are the ones that need an obscene amount of endo to level. And it requires like 500,000 plus of this resource, and none of those mods are important. I have everything relevant in Warframe. I have all of it.
How many mods do you have?
I don't know. It's so many, like 1,000 plus. See, I don't know. There's like the bar scrolls so fast and so far that I don't even know what to do to count them. Like except for look at the wiki.
And see, I feel like that's where the big divide is, right? You've either grown with Warframe, and so you've continued to play it,
right,
at a large section of time, right?
Right.
You've played it actively,
right?
Or you came in late, but somebody, whether that be someone's streams you watched, or many people's streams you watched.
Yeah, or just like friends, deep dive on videos, or a friend, or whatever.
Or community, or deep dives.
Yep.
Has gotten you in. And so now we're at this weird point. How old is Warframe? How many years?
7 years. As of like this, like, yeah, we're coming up on it. 7 years.
7 years. So, okay, but, see, that's... that's so...
So, I have a great question for you, Sarah, because you probably remember. How many years into World of Warcraft was the first level squish?
What do you mean level squish?
Well, like they like not levels, like they squished the content to make it more like dense and like not have like a bajillion levels, right?
Well, they did that. They did that in the beginning. Hold on, there's always been cap levels in World of Warcraft.
Well, no, there's always been the cap, right? But like the power squish, not level squish. Sorry, I'm not a World of Warcraft player.
No, you're fine.
They squished the numbers down to make everything more palatable.
Oh, so they did that right when I quit.
Right when you quit, okay. How many years in was that?
Not right when I quit. I played a little bit into the new one, but Cataclysm was that for them. So Warframe did, or World of Warcraft did a thing where they basically reset the entire world by making an event that changed the entire world.
Okay.
And when they did that, they reset all talent trees and they simplified them.
Okay.
And they changed the mechanics on how you switched from. So within, like, I played Druid, right? That was my main.
Okay.
And so you could aspect that 3 different ways. You could be a tank, a healer, or DPS, right?
Right.
Basically was how that broke out.
Yeah.
And then there were trees within each of those that you would spec into to build a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did, is they simplified all of those, and then they made switching between them easier as well.
Right.
And that made a lot of the older players actually drop out because they simplified everything and because you couldn't fine tune into what you wanted to be fine tuned into,
right,
that you could do prior. Does that make sense?
Right.
And so
they tried to simplify anything, and it alienated people that were super far heavy deep in, right?
Yeah, and I feel it. Yeah, let's see, Cataclysm. I just want to see when that came out.
Yeah,
December 2010.
It was apparently 6 years into the game.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I think Warframe needs to do is they need to not necessarily like squish and like simplify what people are doing, but they need a patch that trims the fat. Like, just like these mods, gone, irrelevant, get rid of them, useless. Just tear the wall down on these mods that no one uses, that are absolutely irrelevant, and condense the amount of stuff you need to learn in a considerable way. Like, they need to breadcrumb everything, but also like that vast like amount of shit needs to be condensed down into like what's actually important and what people are actually ever going to use in a realistic manner. Because, like, great example, they have all these augments for weapons, and they do a specific thing on these weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they should just, because they're not making those anymore, basically, like, they're pretty much just not releasing augments anymore, and there are few to none augments in the game that are even relevant. Remove them. Get rid of it. Or integrate them into the weapon just as a whole. Just tear down the things that don't matter. Twilight, thank you for the 50 bits. I appreciate it. Just like get rid of all kinds of shit. Because like there's so much that is just bloat in Warframe. And it's because it's 7 years into the game. There's just bloat there. There's things that just don't need to be there. Yeah. And like they've kind of tried to do this a couple of times whenever they've reworked the star chart, but never really gotten there in terms of actually like crunching it down into what's meaningful and giving like people reasons to do these content, like these missions.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they have a lot of things that they've, like, going back to your wild ass dragon keys thing. Right. There's things behind walls that maybe don't necessarily need to be behind walls.
Yeah.
Shut up and take my
money.
money.
Can possibly find a way to integrate that without maybe having to reinvent the wheel to get that into the game.
Yeah. Flavin, thanks for the resub. I appreciate it. Sorry, go on.
No, you're fine. But I don't know how.
So,
right? Because
with those keys, I know how. And that's what's so frustrating to me recently and for a long time, is that I know how these things can be integrated. And I know that it's almost certain that they won't be, because I'm the person that goes, so each planet, as you progress through them, they have junctions which you must pass through to get to the next planet.
Yes, I remember that.
You have to do them, which is great because it gives DE an opportunity. They can make each of those teach you something. And the thing that they should teach you at one of those is, say, take the one that takes you from Ceres to Jupiter. You do that one, and then you get a quest. That quest inboxes you and gives you the blueprints for all 4 of the keys. And then a quest begins, and it goes, we're going to build these. You're going to build all these keys. We need to solve something in the Orokin Derelict. There's a mystery to be solved. And they build a quest out for it because this is a very important piece of content. and they have to build the dialogue for it. They have to have like the Lotus tell you, like they have to have one of the characters, doesn't matter who it is, I don't care if it's Ordis, I don't care if it's Lotus, I don't give a fuck, doesn't matter. They have to build out a way, like a progression to get you through this stuff, and then whenever you get to the vault, they need to tell you something really important. They need to tell you something really important. They need to go, oh, these mods are extremely powerful. There's so many you can acquire. You should build more, like something along these lines of like, you should build more of these keys and open more of these in the derelict. Like give you the information that, hey, this is a thing you can do. And like even go so far as like pop a thing up and just like give you like what Monhun does. Whenever you encounter a new thing, it gives you like that text box that pops up and it gives you some information and you can button through it, right? But that information is present and it's there in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like whenever that pops up, it's like these can like just like the derelicts have dragon vaults on them. Build dragon keys to open the dragon vaults. This can be done in a group or alone by equipping more or fewer keys. Like just like the information breakdown just goes in text in a box that fucking pops up. It's very simple. Like is that development time? Yes, it absolutely is. But for something as important as that, it needs to be in the game like that.
I agree. I mean, I agree. But here's my question, and I wonder, this goes down to, if things like this are so simple, like this, what you're saying is complex, and that development is not easy.
Yeah,
but,
and these
right?
things they take time.
Right.
Right.
I know firsthand, I understand that development is wild.
Yeah.
Right. It's what I do, but my concern is that if we are this, and this is no means fault to you, but if you have such a straightforward idea on this, right? I can't believe that no one at DE has had a similar straightforward thought.
Right. Sure.
So my question is, and there's no one who can really answer this. My question is, does DE really care to bring in new players?
I mean, they talk about the new player experience fairly often and how it like should be better. And like they need new players to come in to replace the players that leave. Like that's just the nature of a free-to-play game, right?
Yeah. But hear me out.
Okay.
Hear me out. And this is it's a very interesting thing I watch with Warframe.
Okay.
Warframe has one of the most, if not the most robust partner program that exists.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Period.
Yep.
And so with that, they have a natural, boy, oh boy. They have people want to play because their favorite streamer plays.
Sure.
Or their friends play. And their friends play because the streamer plays.
Right.
And so when you have a production of a new player base based off of other people and not your game, do you really need to rebuild content when you know people are just building to end up playing with other people? Because is that why it falls by the wayside? Because they have noticed a strong connection to people pulling in and retaining those players, at least long enough.
So I see where you're coming from, but I think there's a specific thing, and I'll kind of tie this all together, is people like me, I'm running out of reasons to like play Warframe and like stream it, and I want more, right? I want things to do. There's all these things that like I want more content to play, and I want to stream it, and I want to stream with my community. And whenever they're not like focusing on that, like that, if that new player experience is bad, right, and they lose most of their streamers, like say they have, a lot of content creators have quit and come back for various reasons, and stuff like that has happened. And they don't have, there's not a very like large community of streamers for the game, and content like I mean, it's larger than a lot of games, sure, but and like content creation on YouTube is popular, but by no means like insane popular for what the game is, and that's great and all. But if those people leave, the game needs to have the stuff in it to actually teach its players what to do to create more of those people, right? Like your game needs to in some way not be an engine where I need to teach the next generation of streamer how to play the game so that they can teach their viewers to play. The game needs to be able to create another person in like the vein of me that enjoys the game and understands it to the point where they could explain it to their viewers. Like it has to not involve me just knowing the things, right?
I agree.
And you can take that thing that I just suggested with Dragon Keys, right? Where you add that quest and you add that development time, and you can add in a thing to it that also really appeals to older players very easily. All you have to do, and this may come across as like oversimplification and like not everyone cares about that, Brozime, but really what the community over time that I've seen playing the game for 7 years loves are cosmetics. We fucking love that shit. All of us, like, really long-term players, we will fucking, we'll eat cosmetics up. We'll eat them out of the palm of your hand. If you add two new corrupted mods, and you go, also, as a bonus reward with this update, as we've added this quest, if you collect all of the corrupted mods, if you have one of all of them, you get a decoration for your ship that is just each of the different keys. And you could put those down as decorations in your ship. Do you know how fucking fast I'd be like, we farming this, boys. We fucking do it. We fucking do it. Like, we would get in there. I am fucking here for that. And like players like me and other streamers that care about cosmetics and long-term players, we fucking in on that shit. Then we're here to stream. We got content to do. We got shit going on. We're here, and that pays off on that quest being released and helping new players, and also giving us long-term players a goal. Like, bro, we need that shit to drop. And then when we're in there and we're getting it and we're getting that shit to drop, there's other stuff to do. There's long-term content like opening relics, and like there are other things on the edges that we can go and do, like sorties, and there's other content that can fill out a stream full of things if we complete it quickly. And if we don't complete it quickly, then it can be like a long-term thing. And like there's all this kind of stuff that can like spring out from just a simple small addition, some models that already exist being applied on the tail end of this update that is for new players. And it's decisions like that you can apply to that type of an update that can make it where you're making the game more whole and more inviting for newer people and giving them the information that they need, but also veterans are getting what they want. What they really want. I mean, yeah. Go on.
But then the bonus to that, right? The bonus to that even is you're introducing those new players to a collectible as well.
Right. Agreed.
Right? That they're going to collect throughout.
Yeah.
Throughout their play. And
a thing with that is that that text box that I mentioned, in that text box at the bottom, it should be, if you collect all of them, there's a special reward available. That's all you have to say. Put that information in the game as a footnote, one sentence.
Yep.
Because that way it's not only in the patch notes that they release for this where everyone goes, ooh, I want that. It's also in the game. So people go, what's that special reward? And then they have impetus to ask someone, what's the special reward for this? And that's part of the thing, right? Is not everything needs to be fully explained in the game, but the game needs to give you a reason to ask someone who has knowledge a question.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right. Because that loops back to like, what do you ask?
Right.
When you first start Warframe and you don't know what's going on, where do you even start on what to ask?
Right.
And that gives it. Right. And then, so something that was said a lot, and something that was said a lot is that people don't know about whether or not the Warframe partners really pull people in, and they don't now. They don't. But if you go back and look at the last 2-3 years on Twitch, for those who don't know, before I was a community manager in the games industry, I was a community manager for streamers who were Warframe partners.
Yeah.
That's what I did. And so the thing is that what you saw before is that Warframe, while it's not quote unquote huge in streaming, it's big enough, and the community is insanely, and I mean insanely, insulated. People that love Warframe love Warframe. They love it. They eat it up. It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it is, I know every Warframe partner that I love, and here's their names. And because that's the kind of community it drives, because you've got an amazing community team led by an amazing community manager, period.
And like community team led by and it's a great group of people that do a really good job managing the community.
Yep. And so then they make these really great partners, and they support these really great partners. And then those partners turn around and they recruit people, and then people grow up and go, I just want to play this game because I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that community. I want to do it. And that's why a lot of people played Warframe to get to the point where they understood it. Because their driving factor wasn't the game. Their driving factor was the great community. And I'm going to keep it real with you, Chief. Not to give you a hot take at 5 o'clock in the morning, but people played Warframe to get partnered on Twitch. I'm gonna keep it real. People started streaming Warframe just to get partnered on Twitch. Why? Because they knew they could. Because they knew that the requirements to be a Warframe partner were smaller, so they had to do that. That was barrier 1. Barrier 2, if they stuck with it long enough, chances were that they're getting partner. And now, mind you, it's not everybody, and there's still degrees of success with that,
right?
But truthfully, that is a lot of it. And so when you ask me, did the community really have that pull to pull people in to play the game? Yes, and for many reasons. But now they don't, because now they had so much goodwill, gamer goodwill, right? We saw this with Bethesda,
right?
Bethesda would come out with a game and it'd be like, well, this is great. We love this. And then they had all this gamer goodwill because of, we love the way they talk to us, that we love the way they act, we love the content they produce. Well, then over time they release these other games and it's like, wait a minute, this isn't very good. And that goodwill goes down and it goes down. And it all came to a head with 76. Right?
Yeah, right. And it's this is terrible, and like it was the breaking point for people. Like, this has been terrible for a long time. Fix your shit. Was like a big sentiment.
The quirky, like, oh, this isn't broken, it's Bethesda. It's not broken, it's a feature. Right? That was a thing for the longest time because there was forgiveness because it was Bethesda. And I feel like the same thing's happening with DE. For the longest time, people were like, no, don't worry about it. This happens. It's DE. We know they'll hear us. We know, right? Yeah. We know that they'll fix it, they'll make it right. But
then since Fortuna dropped, it felt like the listening stopped in a lot of ways. And that was like over a year ago. And like, even though like they were definitely listening in like smaller ways, on the whole, it was like, what are they doing? And it lasted long enough that people were like whenever Railjack dropped, it was the breaking point where you see that giant spike where they announced it at the Game Awards, and then it was like, nope. And then they lost 10,000 players in a month.
So my question to that is, and you can answer this, I don't know, but I watched that happen from the sidelines. Yeah. And there's this really weird thing that I have of this question for Warframe. I feel like Warframe turned off to their consumer the minute that the consumer's desire and the game's pace mismatched. And so I feel like there was a certain point where Warframe was like, no, we want to be a bigger game, we want to be a better game, we want to appeal to more players, we want to broaden this experience for our player base. And that was the first time the players really in mass were like, what is this? Why do we have it? Thank you, but why? This isn't Warframe. What are we doing? And then at that point, DE kind of went from this synergy with their players to like, I don't know, guys, geez, I'm just gonna. And then they had the issues with the Warframe drops, and
that alienated a lot of people in the Twitch community.
Because then people were upset because things weren't going right, and then you had viewers yelling at streamers because drops weren't working, and streamers had nowhere to go. Right, they had no point of contact to get anything.
And that's a lot of stress to put on people that, like, let's say on average in like the Warframe stream community, you're gonna be like, if you're one of the top end-ish is like between 10 and like, let's say 90 like viewers. If you suddenly have 1,000 people going, where's my drops? And like that's like a huge amount of stress to put on those people that like maybe regularly stream Warframe, right?
Yeah, well, and then you had players mad at streamers, and because you had viewers mad at streamers because not only were streamers not able to answer that, but I'm gonna keep it real with you, a lot of streamers aren't educated enough in business to be able to respond to that in a very PR way that keeps everyone chill. So you had streamers putting like the exclamation point drops would be like, I don't fucking know, go figure it out with DE, this isn't my job. Right, that's what it boiled down to. And then you had viewers mad at streamers for being assholes. And then you had streamers mad at DE because they looked like assholes because there wasn't anything they could do and there was no communication. So then we've got on two fronts. We've got the community mad in mass at Warframe because of all this. Then you've got your partners who are your biggest shoutcasters. They're the reason a lot of people play the damn game, whether people play it directly because of a streamer or people play because of a friend who has who watched a streamer, right? It's like a chain reaction. It's like a chain reaction, right? So then you're cutting off all these lines. And now they're in a weird place where they drop new content and their top in the directory for Warframe doesn't peak above 700. Right. Maybe peak above. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Right? But like those numbers for top of directory should speak volumes on what are we doing wrong and how do we get us back to good.
And also, on top of that, with the drop stuff, because there have been times whenever the drops were partners only, that caused two things. It was friction between partners and non-partners, and then it caused partners to look at other partners and go, "You shouldn't be partnered. You're stealing my views." And it caused immediate friction between those people because you'd have a smaller partner that maybe doesn't stream as much or whatever, and they just happen to be streaming that is there, and they do have drops, and the greedy top end partners or whatever would be like, why is this person partnered? They don't have views, they shouldn't be partnered. And that was a real thing that went around because people wanted to monopolize those partner drops, because then they're monopolizing the people that are viewing their stream, which was extremely unhealthy, just out and out as a Warframe partner, not healthy for the group of partners.
Oh,
straight up.
Do you know what else added to that?
What's that?
Do you know what else added to that madness? The Warframe partners who would get the viewers for drops and then apply for Twitch partner.
Yeah.
And then get rejected because their views were artificially inflated
by the drops.
And so then those streamers become toxic to the Twitch community.
Yep.
Which in turn becomes toxic to the Warframe partner community, which in turn becomes toxic to their viewers, the Warframe players, which then becomes toxic to everybody else. And so then now we've spread this in mass into a big ass problem.
Right.
And then you still have non-Warframe partners mad at those same Warframe partners for being so entitled.
Right. Exactly. During Warframe drops, I just AFK farmed for them. Most people did.
So Freezer said DE feels the need to innovate with updates or the game will die. I don't know if it was Steve or Reb who said it, so they end up going so far from what they originally brought people in that it seems disorienting. Sometimes a shot in the dark can be a great thing, like Second Dream, but sometimes when it's just being done for, quote, expanding sake, it can be very tedious and ultimately a waste of manpower from them. It makes me really wonder if PoE and Fortuna was worth it in the long run for them.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Well, what I don't understand, correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like, because you had mentioned cosmetics and things like that. Yeah. Why does it feel like that there's less of that these days? Am I just crazy, or is there actually less of those new things, cosmetic wise?
There are more of them.
Okay.
There are actually more of them, and they've been there's a specific thing that they kind of went with that people were really excited for, and so the ephemera, the aura effects you can put on Warframes, right? Those are acquirable in-game in a variety of different manners, and what they pitched them as was a thing that people really wanted, which was, we're going to put these in as essentially gifts for achievements. Whenever you've achieved a thing, you'll get one of these and you can wear it, and it'll be a symbol that you've done a thing, right?
Yep.
And they said that, and everyone was like, fuck yeah, because there's things like that in the game that people love, like Courier.
That makes sense.
If you find all 50 or whatever Courier, you get one for your ship. And you get a special sigil and stuff, and all this was cool shit to show off. So they did we wanted ephemera to be that, to be the special thing that we could show off that we did the thing. But what they ended up being whenever they actually released them is that they're just RNG drops, and they don't feel special. I just finished getting my last one of the Lich ephemera, and do you want to know how I got all of them?
Go on.
I bought them. Because other players rolled the random % chance for their Lich to have the ephemera, and then they capture it, and then they trade it off. And I was like, here, have some platinum for this. Thanks for this. And then I killed them and got the ephemera. Because otherwise, I'm just creating a Lich and just rolling a % chance for him to have it.
But then, oh,
and
that's
and it doesn't feel like an achievement because it wasn't like, hey, kill 5 ice liches and you'll get the ice ephemera, which I'd be like, absolutely. I killed 5 ice liches. I have this cool ephemera to show for it. Instead, it's just RNG. It's like, and it started out a 5% chance. They raised it to 10%, and now it's 20%, but it still doesn't feel special. Yeah, and the exploiter farm. I think it was 18, somewhere between like 16 and 20 hours of farming the exploiter boss fight, which has a 6% chance to give you an ephemera, and then a 50-50 on which ephemera it's going to be. I needed to do like 16 to 20 hours of that farm to get both of them, finally. But I did 16 to 20 hours of a mission that lasts 10 minutes. And there's no output on that. There's no like thing that you can like, you're not accruing anything to get them. They're just a random drop. So some people got it on their first run. 10 minutes and they got it.
But then you're not, so basically you're not getting it for the thing they said you're getting it for.
Yeah, you're not earning them. It's just random. And also as a consequence for that, because I didn't get it for such a long period of time, I have enough resources to get everything in Fortuna, like multiple like sets and sets and sets of every item they could possibly award, because I have so much of the material that exploiter drops. Like I have infinite resources effectively now because of that farm being that way, because I wanted it. And because there wasn't just like a realistic way to earn it where I wouldn't break my own economy for myself.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't have anything else. I didn't have...
Wasn't it also during a double resource weekend? Yes, it was.
Yeah,
but even without that, I have months of resources.
But see, that's so...
And also, do you want to know the one ephemera I don't have?
Go on.
I don't have an ephemera in a game mode called Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, which is a game mode I have probably played in the last year more than any other game mode. I don't have it because the only way to get it is a 1% drop chance from a 20-minute mission. What? It's the only ephemera I don't have. It's the one and single ephemera I do not own. And I have done more ESO.
Your choice is to buy it?
I can't buy it. That's one you can't buy. Otherwise, I'd have it. Because it would be, if it was purchasable for 1,000 platinum, which is like about what like the top end of what you can spend in Warframe. If it was purchasable for 1,000 platinum, I could farm the platinum faster than I could farm that item.
How did it get to be such a...
That's what they introduced it as. They put it in there, and it's a 1%.
It's a 1% drop, yep. And they're like, "Good luck, kid."
Yep. And the worst part is it's not even a good ephemera. It's like one of the worst ones in the game. But it's the only one I don't have. Yeah, 99% chance to get a 1% drop is 500 runs. But other people got it on their first or second run.
That would fit.
You bought Borrow's new ephemera? Yes, I did.
You want to talk about alienating a player base? Mm-hmm. Because you have to be, like, really deep into Warframe to even go for that, right?
Yep.
Like, how many hours would you say, on average, for a knowledgeable player, right? How to take to get to the point to do that mission, to possibly get it?
Okay, to be able to do that mission, like, join someone and kind of have them do it for them, or do that mission?
To do that, to actively be a part of that mission.
For a regular player who is not, like, being led by the nose to get to it, I'd say you'd probably have to be 500 hours into Warframe.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Are you...
To be able to understand what you need to do. Yeah. Because to do that mission effectively, especially by yourself, there are only a couple Warframes that do it well, and you need to be geared as fuck.
So you have to... So you're telling me the barrier for entry for this thing that's really cool is 500 hours in the game plus... the number of times it could possibly take you to do it.
Also,
based off of a random chance, a 1% chance.
Yep.
Every time you do it.
Okay, also, for this mission, it's worth noting that even for players that are around where I am, like MR 20+ players that have these hundreds of hours, they will usually drop out of this mission before wave 4. You need to get to wave 8 to even roll that 1% chance to get it.
I don't. Okay. All right. Yep.
It's an easy mission to fail. I would say it ranks within like the top like missions to fail. What mission is he talking about? Elite Sanctuary Onslaught. Yeah, it's like top 5 hardest missions probably. And it's not because it's difficult, it's because the barrier to entry is high.
Top 5. 500 hours. 8 waves.
Yep. 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
1% drop chance.
1% chance.
You can fail
Can I say
ESO.
something that
Well, you
some
okay.
may-
To clarify, you can't fail ESO, but you'll be kicked out of it early.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
But kicked out before round 8 doesn't matter. You've done all that for nothing.
Exactly.
Okay. And please let me make sure before I say a thing. This is a mission you can do at any point, right? Like, it's not like you can only enter it sometimes.
No, it's always available as long as you're past the new Strange, which is a relatively early mission you have to do.
Okay, so at least, all right, so at least we're there. At least it's always available. At least it's not also like, and it's only available during random times.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
That's
can I say
but what that is, that's Eidolon farming.
Okay. Can I say something?
Go on.
That's... Who the fuck? Why the fuck? Would you do that to your player base? You want to talk about alienating your player base? Have somebody play that mission 25 times and then be upset. They have their whole thing, but they can't get that one thing. How many times would you say you've played that mission?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds of times. Geez, you know what? I sure do love this fucking game that's made me play this one mission hundreds of times because and you know what? They could have, you know how simply they could have introduced a thing that like, it's a 1% chance, but that chance can multiply, like even if it's by a small amount for each time you've played the thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Okay, fine, make it 1%, but then also make it like increased chance.
Yep. So that you eventually get it, and then it can't drop anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've been saying that kind of thing for a long time. So you know what's even better on top of it?
Go.
Me and Freezer both don't have it. Do you know what we use that mission for?
Go on.
We use it to level all of our weapons. And before me and him both maxed out every relevant node in focus, we used it to level focus.
What's focus?
It's an extra progression thing. It like basically is extra experience that goes into this extra progression thing. Which yeah, that's a thing.
Wait, so you have progression of like your MR and then you have progression of focus? Wait,
It's an extra absurd grind that almost no one does.
Well, what's it for? What's it do?
So your operator, the kids that pilot the Warframes, it powers them up. There are 5 schools, and they all level independently. And you can put a lens, on your gear to level the. Yep.
Wait. Rewind. Rewind. Stop.
Yeah.
So your operator, back on your operator. So you like pick like a skill tree.
Yeah.
For your operator.
Yes.
And then that's the focus.
So okay. So you pick a skill tree to start on, but then you can switch to the other ones via acquiring other lenses to focus that focus.
You don't even get all the skill. Wait,
no.
Hold on. Wait. They don't even give you the thing. You have to grind for the thing to grind?
Yes. And you can put a lens on a Warframe or a weapon, and the extra experience that gets will turn into an amount of focus based on how good the lens you got is.
Right, which is RNG,
which is no. So you can you make better ones. So you can put the lowest level lens into your thing, right?
Yeah.
And then you can go to make a higher quality lens, which is a thing you can craft, but that has to randomly drop from a variety of different things that don't make sense why they're there.
Okay, wait.
Okay.
So now we grind for the grindy thing. You grind to be able to grind to make a lens that you can make a better lens, but you have to wait for the RNG to drop the thing to make the better lens.
Also, on top of that, you're not increasing the quality of the lens you put into the thing. If you remove a lens, no matter how good it is, from an item, it breaks.
Huh.
So you can't remove a lesser lens and then upgrade it with the blueprint you found. And then put it back in. It breaks if you remove it.
I have a college education.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 jobs that are very complex and deal with very difficult situations.
Yep.
And I'm just not sure why. All right. But how did you learn to do this thing? Did the game
it came out
to do the
I read the
thing?
patch notes.
Holy God.
Yeah, I read the patch notes and then figured it out.
So, like, anyone who wants to do it now has to read the wiki to understand that there's a thing to do for the grind, for the RNG, for the grind?
They can hope they understand it if they read the wiki. The focus area for the wiki isn't even, like, very good. If you read it, you probably won't get it.
Remember when you talked about the thing about trimming the fat?
Yeah.
Why does that exist?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know what else is great?
Yeah?
They added an extra layer to focus. It's called waybounding.
What the?
Yeah.
Okay,
see,
so we're making up words and
I'm not.
Because focus I kind of get.
This is
like,
real.
Focus makes sense. It's a focus for your operator. And, like, what the fuck is a waybinding?
So once you max out certain specific skills in each of the 5 different focus trees, you can unbound a waybound. And you know those eidolons, right? Those big bosses?
Right.
If you kill the first one and then use its core to summon the second one, and then use that core to summon the third one, and then capture it, if you capture the third most powerful eidolon, you get a thing that allows you to unbound a waybound, and you unbind it, and then that skill, but only specific skills, are available on all of the focus trees. But you need to max out those nodes with focus before it becomes available, and you need like a bajillion focus plus this special item that only comes from this one place that there's no tutorial or anything or any real breadcrumbing on how to get to do it. Because you only use one of your 5 focus trees at a time, which you pick. Wait, you don't need to catch the third one for that? Even I'm forgetting this. Is it just the first one?
I don't.
Even I'm forgetting this. It's so fucking nonsensely complicated. It is the third? I thought it was the third.
I don't.
Brilliant shards are just for focus? Okay, yeah, the brilliant shards give you extra focus. My bad. Sorry.
Okay.
It's any of them? Okay.
So
you still need to go and do that and then unlock it and then level only specific nodes and all that business. So you don't need to kill all 3 of the eidolons, just the first one.
So all of this. So, okay, let's redeem this maybe.
Okay.
A little bit.
Okay.
So all of this, you have increased your focus and your way bullshit. All of it. You've done it. Huzzah. What does it give you? Like what does all of this grinding give you? What does it result in? Please tell me it makes you a god.
Well, so there's one important ability in the Zeneric tree that allows your operator to do a little dash, and then they give you a bubble where it'll start regenerating energy for your Warframe. And then beyond that, none of the skills are useful. Except for doing the content that levels the skills. But you've leveled the skills, so why do the content that leveling the skills makes better?
So
it's also like the first or second node you can level. Oh, and then also as like a small thing that is not actually that important, there's a thing that can make it so your operator's kind of fast. But it's almost never super relevant.
So they make it, they put it behind this big old golden wall.
Mm-hmm.
Big wall.
Yeah.
Big wall.
Yeah, some of the nodes are downgrades, by the way.
Hours you'll never get back.
Yeah, some of the nodes are downgrades, worth noting.
And they go, but now you're kind of like Sonic.
Yeah.
Okay. Yo. Huh. I don't know. I don't have words. I understand grind. Like, please understand that at a very core level, I understand that free-to-play games are grind factories. It's just how they are. It's a thing.
Right.
But why, in God's name, and I need someone to explain this to me.
Okay.
Why Warframe has made it so do they feel like you guys will like it better if they add complicated words like focus and wayfinding and
I don't know. You know what the real kicker is?
Yeah, please don't. I can't. Okay.
Chat, can you tell me when the second Dream came out? What year was it? 2015. It's 2020. Right? Confirmed, Sarah? So Focus came out with the second Dream 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It has been reworked twice, and we've never lost progress. I'm only almost done with the grind for it.
No!
Uh-huh.
Can you buy your way out of it?
No.
That's my other question.
Well, so you can buy higher quality lenses, but you usually can't buy the highest quality lens. But you can buy like greater lenses instead of the regular ones, which are like there's a negligible at best difference. But I have bought some of those lenses whenever I've been feeling lazy.
What? So the only thing you really have out of it, is fucking Sonic Operator, who isn't really relevant, just like gotta go fast.
Yeah.
And also the, hey guys, look at my big dick, I got all the focus.
Yeah. I'm very close to having finished all of it. I only need a little bit more focus, just a few 100,000.
I'm just so sad. Cause like, okay, what I was gonna say, grindy games I get.
Right.
Like I get it. I get games that the people love the grind, but there should be a direct correlation between effort and reward.
Yeah. Also, there are daily caps for how much you can progress through that system. So no new player has any conceivable chance, realistically, of catching up to me. Without spending like 1,000 hours, only really going at that.
Okay. Okay, all right. Yep. Anything else you wanna okay? Anyone else wanna throw at me? Please.
Let's see here.
Let's go, because obviously I don't...
So you know the Eidolons, right?
Right.
So to farm them, they're available for 50 minutes during nighttime on the plains. And then there's like an hour and change where it's daytime and you can't do them. So those are generally a very elitist thing that you can only do in like consistent groups if you want to like do them well. There's not a whole lot of random matching that goes into them unless it's like a challenge that's been on the weekly for Night Waves, which is its own bag of tricks that you'd love to hear about. Those groups can be quite toxic because of the time limit on being able to do those missions, because they want people that can do them well, right?
Right, because of time limits.
You need the skills you get and the weapons you get from doing those missions to do those missions well.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. So basically, if you don't know how to do it, you can't come with us.
Right, exactly.
Okay, all right, perfect. This is a common MMO problem.
Yep.
That's that one I can't fault them for.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem that a lot of mass multiplayer games run into, right?
Oh, for
Where
sure.
it's like, because you can teach people, but that's a risk that a lot of players don't want to make when it's a time limited thing, right?
Right, exactly.
Because they don't want to risk teaching someone and then losing because, Jack, Tim, or Harry don't understand.
Right.
But see, that one doesn't bother me as much. What
Right.
I don't understand, and I.
But okay, but to clarify, we're talking about like entry level content for this type of thing. Like, you know how you're doing like your baby's first raid in Final Fantasy 14 or whatever MMO,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, this isn't meant to be hard. It's just meant to be like a thing you do together. There's not really a huge learning curve. The first Eidolon is that, but because of the heavily limited like time, that's like the way people do it.
People don't approach it. Don't approach it as a new player. So the new players have a hard time getting into it because.
Yeah, exactly. Because the very like, imagine if your very first raid, you had 20 minutes out of every hour to do in FF14.
No, that's all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, anytime you add a clock to anything, it's bad for new players.
I agree.
Because they need to be able to mess up. There has to be a degree of error.
Right.
That the first players are allowed to make, right?
Right, exactly.
Jeez. I don't know. I don't understand. Can I ask something? Because there's a number of people in the chat, and I need to understand at this point. I just do. It's an honest question, and please be very brutally honest with me. When you look at it all spread out like this, just kind of like broken down, just on these couple things, what keeps you playing?
I'm interested in what chat says.
What keeps you playing?
What keeps me playing? I know that there are a lot of talented people on that dev team that, like, given the slightest opportunity, can do it. They can do it. They have the capability. I know that. I know they can do it. But I know that, like, they lack the focus to be able to do it all the time. And I think that there's the possibility that they can bring it together. But I think they need to bring it together. And, like, recently, like, Railjack was the breaking point for a lot of players. Because it was like, they purported it as the bringing together of Warframe. And I was excited, along with many other people, for that. Because that's what we wanted. We wanted Warframe to become this cohesive thing and, like, have a big thing that can help bring everything together. And we didn't get that at all. And that was why it was the breaking point for so many people. And, like, the core stuff in Warframe, the core, like, enemies show up, I'm this cool Warframe, my powers feel good, the shooting is solid, like, I have good things to do, I have cool things to do in, like, the regular, normal mission-to-mission gameplay. That stuff's good. But it's all, like, the systems and balance and just, like, content bloat for things that just don't need to be there that all get in the way. Because there's a lot of good stuff in Warframe. Like, it is still a good game, but it has big fucking problems.
I mean, from what I've seen of Warframe, and I've seen a lot, I've watched and been involved in so much, like, conversation surrounding Warframe.
Right.
There's no doubt in my mind that the dev team's talented, because development is hard.
Right.
And there's a lot of things in Warframe that are very beautiful and work really well together. So,
in short, it's a beautiful mess. Yeah, agreed.
I mean, that's about accurate, ain't it?
Yeah.
But my question is, so my follow-up question to this. So, I think you have very valid reasons for why you play.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people had really great ones as well. Including those who said they just don't anymore, which I also can understand just by the explanations they're giving on some of these things.
Yeah, because there's plenty of people that, like, come to this channel and watch my videos that like the way I treat Hearthstone. Like, I kind of want to look at it and see where it's at, but I'm not playing that.
And that's fair.
Because people got sick of it. Because maybe one day you'll want to, but, like, for right now you're sick of it.
Maybe the thing that broke it for you can be fixed.
Exactly.
Right? And that's that hope. And that speaks to the dev team, and that speaks to the talent that's there, is because people still want it to be good, right? And that's great. So here's my question for those of you who still play. And this is genuinely going to loop back to my point that I have had this whole time. And I ask, and I honestly, if you had a friend that you just knew and they said, hey, I really want to get into a game. Would you recommend Warframe? Would Warframe be the top of mind recommendation that you give to somebody who doesn't play it?
No. Even for me as a content creator for Warframe right now, it's a no. Because you know what that game is instead? What everyone is saying in chat, Monster Hunter is that game.
See, and that right there, the fact that there's still some who say yes, but the fact that a majority of people are like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think that speaks volumes to kind of where the game is at.
Right.
Yeah. Wouldn't you say?
I agree. Yeah.
And things like Monster Hunter, while not Warframe by any extent,
right?
They
have
scratch
similarities.
that itch in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? They're not the same game, but they scratch the same itch that people have.
Yeah.
So I think Warframe's in a really tough spot, especially with how well Iceborne is doing.
Right.
And continuing to do, and that they have content that's continuous.
Mm-hmm.
That Warframe doesn't have much choice at this point than to uninnovate. They need to innovate by rewinding and kind of getting back to the things people loved in the first place.
Right.
So I'm interested to see what they do with TennoCon, because they've got to do something big, or at least announce something coming that's big. And by big, I mean reintroducing something that people loved, whether that's raids or reworking base or something.
With that, with TennoCon, there's actually a problem I want to address. With that kind of ties into this exact thing you're saying, is that they need to announce something big at TennoCon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So last year they announced the beginning of game, like the cinematic, and like that they were going to be refreshing like the new player experience and doing all that work, right?
Yeah.
They also talked about Railjack, and they also talked about the Plains of Duviri, which is the big thing coming post Railjack, and the new war, which is tied into Railjack, right?
Okay.
Railjack is out, and it's bad. It's not good. It needs fixing, and it needs time. The new player experience has not been touched at all. And Plains of Duviri is nowhere to be found. TennoCon is coming up fast, and at the last TennoCon, they showed Railjack for the second time, and it came out how it did. If they do this next TennoCon, and they show the Plains of Duviri and the new player experience, and none of it's in, that's not showing anything.
Are you saying you're afraid that they're not going to have anything to release around TennoCon, and that's not going to release until...
I know they won't. Like, because they showed things twice in a row, then like what am I expecting? I'm expecting them to like show slightly more of the Plains of Duviri, and it'll come out at the end of the year, maybe, and then like, or maybe like the new war stuff will be out at the end of the year, maybe, and then at the next TennoCon they show even more of Plains of Duviri again. Like I don't know what I'm expecting, because the things that they've shown aren't here.
So, but does
like there's nothing to show, because the things they've shown don't exist.
So, but does anyone really want... So from what I've heard, though, people don't like the open world content anyway.
Yeah, well, like they're so in general,
people want it?
People, it's a mixed bag on whether or not people like it. I think people like having an open world, but the way that it's structured is not great. And a lot of that is that there's no way to catch up on your open world content. So a lot of the content is locked behind weeks of farming. So if they can't introduce anything new to the current open worlds, so like the prior thing was, we'll just introduce a new open world, because daily caps for them suck, basically.
So is it just a daily cap issue?
Yeah.
Truthfully?
So, right. Because so it's for, so like what we talked about with World of Warcraft, where like they wanted to take the old content and like simplify it and do all this stuff and like make it accessible for people, right?
Right.
The thing that they haven't done for either the Plains of Eidolon or Fortuna, and Fortuna is over a year old at this point, and Plains is over 2 years old at this point, they haven't made it so that players can catch up. And And it's harder to catch up the newer of a player you are.
Well, because it sounds like it.
Well, it's because and it's in actually two ways. If you're a high MR, your daily cap is higher, so you can make more. Wait, you can make more progress than a newer player just de facto.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. So good to know that they've made that nice and even for that. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So if you're MR5, you can get 6,000 rep at Fortuna and Plains individually because they're individual caps. Me, I'm MR28. I can get 29,000 per area rep per day.
That's, you know what's annoying about that? You know what's really annoying about that?
New players can never catch up.
It's not even just catch up. Okay. A new player is always just the shit at the bottom of the barrel.
Right.
Where that others can go, oh, you can only get this. Well, had you been playing for the last... It's literally FOMO the game. Like, if I stop playing, then these people are going to be above me.
Well,
then should something come out, I'm stuck.
So this issue is not even really actually about FOMO. It's about this being a barrier between players being able to play together. Because if I am at the end of my Fortuna progression, that means I have access to the second rep grind called the Vox. And when you start the Vox, that lets you do Profit Taker and like the raids in there and progress through that content. And it gives you access to 2 different Warframes through that. So you have to get all the way to max rank on the first rep grind in order to even be able to take part in the content that's in the back room. So if you want to bring someone to Profit Taker because you'd like to farm credits there, you can't.
See, okay. I just don't understand. I understand rewarding your older players.
Right.
You should be. Right.
Yeah,
older players that have put in hundreds or thousands of hours should be rewarded for that.
And that would be those types of rewards we talked about before, like if you introduce the keys and those cosmetics and those things that don't affect gameplay that they can have to show off, right?
But this is punishing, like to the point where if you're new, they're punishing you. And it's not even like they're punishing you until you can catch up. They're punishing you and you can never catch up. The only thing you can do is be above the people who come after you.
Right, exactly.
And that's so bizarre to me because then you never catch up. You can never, like, okay. Not we've been drawing Monhun like comparisons all night. But Monhun, people could start a Monhun today.
Yep.
Monhun did a thing where they introduced an armor set that will get you through base game.
Yep.
So you can play with your friends.
Yeah.
And so I don't so that's the way you do that, right? You still have to grind, you still have to get armor, you still have to do all these things in order to do the arch tempered blah blah bullshit.
Right, exactly.
But you're not punished forever.
It's worth noting that a thing that I've suggested for a long time is a very easy solution to this. So whenever like Fortuna first came out and when Plains first came out, these rep caps were introduced so that players couldn't burn through all the content in one day, right? So the thing that I have proposed literally to DE, I talked about this whenever I was interviewing DE Megan, is that as that content ages, those restrictions need to lessen and lessen and lessen and eventually go away. So that players can just do it and catch up and be caught up. Because whenever content first comes out, I understand the desire to be like, don't burn through this all in one day. Don't play for 24 hours straight. Don't do that stuff. Because you don't want players to do that. You don't want them to burn out on their first day of this new update, right? That makes sense. That's admirable. But if players need to fucking catch up, allow someone to get 6 hours worth of this rep and just like get that shit done and like catch up and make this progress and like get there within a considerably shorter amount of time. Or do both. You can do 2 things instead of just the one. Instead of just releasing the cap, make it so that you just earn just way more rep if you're below the max rank. So once you get to the max rank, you need like the same amount, like you earn the same amounts as everyone else in terms of like getting the items that are at that max rank, but everything before that, you earn like quintuple the amount of rep or whatever. So you can get through that really fast. Like there's 100 million solutions to this type of thing just to get people caught up to where they can play with their friends and do the things, right?
Yeah.
But it just hasn't been accounted for, and it's awful because of that. Like if I wanted to get someone into Eidolon hunting with me, they need to get the second dream done. They need to get the War Within done. They need to get their amp, and they have to do Gara's quest in order to do that. And then they need to go see the they need to go see Anko and get that amp. And then to get them to like where I am, they also need, because amps come from 2 places. They come from Fortuna and from the plains. They need to get parts from both to mix them together to make the best amp. And like you need to do all these grinds to get up to par to like be doing these runs on the highest level. And they need to make it easier to get there. Because you need to go through 3 different rep grinds to get to that point. Because the amp parts are locked behind the second rep grind in Fortuna. So like those grinds just need to be lessened because it takes months. Like if you're below MR10, months.
See that's and the barrier entry of Warframe, I have decided for me is just too high. It's too high in base knowledge needed, but the grind is like, I respect a grind, but if you have to grind that much to get to the point to even be able to semi play with your friends,
yeah, well, like not to be able
of hours
to semi play with your friends, there's a lower barrier to that. But like if you want to be on par with your friends, it takes that long. Because if you just want to like be able to be there but be like sort of helpful and like doing it with your friends, you can survive off just getting like a regular amp that's better than like the one you start with, which is still a grind, and you still have to do the content with your friends, having them carry you to even get that thing. And they'll have to carry you over multiple days. It's not like a thing where it's like, oh yeah, we'll go do like one night of this and you're gonna get enough stuff and rep to like just cash that in and get your cool item, and then you'll be up to par with us, bro, and then we can go do these hunts. No, it's days of you helping them to get them to a point where they can like adequately help you out as the person carrying them.
How many people in chat have carried people through this whole thing just to get them to the point where they can start helping?
I know Freezer has.
Is there a large number of you?
Days, weeks, dude. Weeks for the full thing.
Oh man.
Yep. Bunch of people.
Oh man.
Proud of you guys.
All right. I mean,
I have been carried. We have someone who has been carried in the chat.
Do you know what this says?
What's that?
The community carries this game.
Yeah, they do. That's absolutely true.
This is a small sample size, but
right.
it's a large. I mean, compared to the entire the number of people that play, but like still.
Well, like I mean, Warframe is known for having a very helpful community, and like literally without it, the game doesn't work. You have to carry every new clan member. A lot can't count. Carried about 3 friends. All 3 don't play Warframe now. Like, Warframe, I would say generally is home to a lot of very helpful people. Also, Zeldy, thank you for that resub. I do appreciate.
Carried 8 friends at this point. 6 of them was quit because it was too grindy. Whew. That's tough too. That's got to be tough to carry someone real hard, and then.
Well, like,
I've carried 2 of my friends over the course of 5 years. I 100% refuse to open a clan and do the same.
And you know what? You know what's really sad, which and some of this is like unavoidable, but like a lot of people have been playing so long and helped so many people that if they look at their friends list and they sort by last logged on, it's sad.
Oh, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't make yourself sad. Don't do that.
Because for a lot of people, like the people they're adding to their friends list are their actual friends that they talk to that used to play. And it's like, oh, 1,000 days ago was the last time I played that with my friend. Yeah, 500 days ago. Some over 2,000 days.
It's tough.
Yeah.
That's so tough. Oh, by the way, there's been a lot of people who asked. So for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Sara. I am a brand manager for a game studio. I'm also the community manager for a little game called A Hat in Time.
Very good video game.
And in my spare time, I'm the girlfriend of this man.
Yay. He's also the sweetest human. And doesn't she have like fantastic, intelligent conversation, everyone? This has been very fun.
So just for anyone who doesn't know who I am, that is who I am.
Freezer probably would have quit long ago. Without hanging out here, maybe? Yeah, that's unfortunate. But I mean, I think that, honestly, I think that's a lot of people in this
Except when
stream.
she's dating Animal Crossing. That's
true.
not... Yeah, you still have a girlfriend for 5 days. He'll be fine.
True.
4 days.
True. But yeah, like, okay, chat, this is going to be... Obviously, this is not a fair question. How many of you guys only log on to Warframe whenever I'm streaming? Or a streamer is like the reason you get on. Considering I only play it when you stream at this point, yeah. Just here for the dope conversations. Appreciated. Thank you.
See?
All right. How many of you that said no don't log in even when I'm streaming? Like, you just don't log in at all. You're just not playing. Like, if you were one of the people that said no, you don't log on even whenever I'm streaming. Yeah. Pretty much all the people. Watch you for you, really. Well, I very much appreciate it.
Don't log on.
Stop playing. Yeah. It's tough.
How many of you stopped playing because Warframe, in their efforts to innovate and expand, lost what you loved about the game? Because that's my question. I don't know if it's the grind. Is it the grind that killed it for you, or is it the innovation into new things that killed it for you?
Lots of me in here.
Or other.
Run out of shit to do.
Fair. Grinding, combination, innovation causing important things to
lack of content is a big thing.
And die.
So yeah. I would say that people saying a lack of content, it was what did it. The innovation is what does the lack of content.
Well, yeah, because instead of making additional content for what people love, and things for those people to do, they're making new experiences to see if it hits.
Yeah, game lacks focus right now, stuff like that.
I agree. I would. I mean, from watching it, I think the game lacks focus because it sounds like there's.
Well, like just
it's almost like it's 3 different games in one.
And that's just from the rabbit hole we jumped down with like all the bullshit that I like explained. Where like it's like you had like even having played to MR6 and like seeing what you saw, it was a wild thought for you, I would say. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. That there is this extra skill tree. Like, even on top of everything the fuck else, there's a skill tree for your operator and all kinds of other shit. Like, that's just absurd, right?
I'm just gonna drop a fair bit of bits for this. I hop in mainly for fashion frame lately, and then get hooked over to just trying different weapons or frames. Real talk though? I go several days without playing lately because I just have other games that I enjoy more, that don't require grind that makes the sky a blush.
Nice. Alright, go on, Sarah.
Sorry. No, I mean, it's just... I don't... Getting to MR6, I feel like it's a different game than what you're playing.
Than what I'm playing?
I feel like I'm playing a different game than you're playing.
I agree.
That's it. That's the end of it. I feel like the Warframe I'm playing is not the Warframe you're playing.
Right.
And the fact that I can't even understand what you're doing is frustrating to me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like at MR6 and I know it's still like baby levels, but I feel like at MR6 I should be able to understand a couple core concepts that carry through.
Yep.
And I feel like I don't even understand enough to have an intelligent conversation with you about Warframe. I mean, we're talking big strokes here.
Yeah,
Ken,
like big conceptual things and all. You mean like a deep conversation about like if this Warframe is good or not?
Oh, right, about gameplay, and but I don't even mean like. Obviously, there's going to be a lot that I don't know, but there should be, like, I should be at MR6 be able to have a
grasp on what you're doing.
Conversation about like core, like about the Warframe that I play, that I started with, and that I can start to understand.
Right.
And I can't.
Right.
That's so frustrating to me.
It took me 100 hours to understand a little of what I was doing, to be honest, when I started. It takes 40 to 60 hours to get out of the tutorial. Just reading things in chat.
Brozime content itself requires MR10. I mean, that's fair. Understand, I know at MR6 you should have fundamental knowledge of the game. I don't.
Well, like, I think whenever people say fundamental, we're talking about moving and shooting.
Oh, I can move and shoot.
Yeah.
I can do that. I mean, probably not anymore, but when I played, I did.
Right, like you know what buttons to do to kill the enemy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which Warframe did I start with? I don't know. There's 3 you can start with, right?
Yeah. They've changed over time.
What are their names?
There's Excalibur, Mag, and Volt, which would have been
Mag is what I started with.
Okay. You'll be happy to know she's much better than she was when you started, Esther.
Hey. And I'd like to point out that while I don't have hundreds of hours in Warframe, I have thousands of hours of watching Warframe played.
Yeah.
Thousands.
And it's still witchcraft, it's that way for people that like play it regularly. For a lot of them,
I have thousands of watched hours of Warframe partners. I have managed Warframe's partners' streams. I still don't get the game.
Yep. Okay, like to put this into perspective, I want to put this into perspective. There was a Warframe partner in the partner Discord, which is a thing that exists. People know about it. That I was talking with, and this partner will go unnamed because I don't want this to be like a negative thing on them at all. They were trying to explain something to someone, and they had no fucking idea what they were talking about. They were wrong on every conceivable possible conceptual level. They're a Warframe partner. I had to explain to them how shotgun status works. They were a partner. They had played the game for hundreds of hours, and they did not know how status works. And to be fair, it was obscure, and it changed now. It doesn't work that way anymore because they just fucking changed it. But back that old way it worked, I had to explain how it worked to them, and they were a Warframe partner. Hundreds of hours in the game. And I can't blame them for not knowing. This is not like a knock on them or anything. They'll still go unnamed because like for obvious reasons. But like that was the thing I had to do because like they didn't know. And like I can't have people spouting misinformation, but you can't even have people that have played hundreds of hours really know how the game works in a lot of cases. Even I am not immune to mistakes. Like, I have 10,000 hours, basically, of experience in Warframe, like, over the course of, like, just doing it. And it's like, even I don't know everything. Even I am not an encyclopedia, trying to get as close as I can. But, like, that thing earlier, like, I forgot. Regular Eidolons give you the specific shard, and then, like, the higher tier Eidolons give you brilliant shards, which are only focus. Like, that detail, even I forgot. Because there's so much shit.
I hope they figure out where they want to take the game, and they drive it in that direction.
Yeah.
And then they need to do 2 things. 2, and only 2.
Yep.
I'm really simplifying. They need to do 2 things.
Okay.
They need to rework the new player experience.
Yeah.
To make it livable for new players. I'm not saying knock the rewards of the veteran players, because I get it. You guys have put in clearly enough time that you should have something.
Right.
But they need to make a better new player experience that where the game teaches players the game, so it doesn't feel like, because I do have a sense that you really have to have someone hold your hand to get through it.
You do.
And that's not how you should have. It is not up to your players to teach other players how to play the game.
Well, because most streamers that start the game are taught by chat. Like, they don't figure it out. They get taught by chat.
See? The players will teach the other players to play the game, and that's how they'll play the game. It only works for so long.
Yep.
So if they need to do that, or they need to link people directly to the wiki and say, you need this because our game not teach you anything.
Which means they also need to do one of the things that Dauntless did that was a wonderful move that they definitely needed to do. Dauntless officially endorses their wiki and updates it. And DE would also need to do that if they were going to go down that road.
Yep. Oh, of course. But they need to do that. That's number one. That will hopefully, if they do it right, and hopefully if people are willing to give them a chance, will get their new players starting again and getting their new players to care.
Yep.
Number two.
Because right now, I think with this, to exemplify why this is important, with Railjack launching, it was very clear there was a large spike of players and then an immediate spike downwards because those players came and then they didn't get it or they didn't like it. And the thing that you can at least do is fix the they didn't get it part.
Yes. Number two. Well, also 1.A. 1.A, 1.5. They need to incentivize the partner or incentivize the veteran players to have a reason to go back and play the new content as part of that. Right.
Or go back and play older content, like getting special cosmetics and that type of thing that we discussed earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then so number two that they need to do is they need to pick a direction for Warframe.
Yep.
They need to pick. And then that is what they need to take the game into.
Yeah.
People being pissed be damned. I know that sounds rough. I know. But honestly, what they're doing now is worse, because now you've got player groups who are interested in sections of Warframe and not interested in others. So when you release new content, they're like, I don't want to play this. I want to do this thing that I love doing.
Right.
And then Warframe's like, no, play this other thing. You'll like it. And they're like, no, no, I'm a space ninja. I don't want to fly a ship.
And the interesting thing is they've made that mistake twice.
In a row, right?
Well, not in a row. So Arcwing was by the way, it's an entirely different progression system. That you equip this thing that allows you to fly in space and fly in the open world areas. And it has its own mods, its own progression system, and its own weapons. And they released that, and it did sort of the same thing that Railjack did, only there wasn't story stuff tied to it. Like, there wasn't story locked behind it. Railjack is that, but with story stuff locked behind it, so it hurts the people who like the story in Warframe as well.
See, but that's the thing is like, you can be a space ninja game, like on ground, and still have some space content. However, you can't have exclusive space content and say this is your update.
Right.
Because when you do that, right, so if you are a focused game that understands what you are, and you know that this is what people do. So when you release something that's new, like, I don't know, space fighting, then that should be released alongside content that people love, because it makes the other content bearable. You need to give people both, because if you just give them space content and they say this is your update, then everyone else is going, this is not the game I want to play, and now I want to play this game and I can't play the part of the game I love, so now I don't want to play the game at all. Because there's not new content for me, there's this other content that I don't want to play. And so then if you release this, right, there's a middle ground where you can release ground fight that has your story,
Yep.
and still introduce the space fighting to see if your player base likes it.
Yeah.
Because they may bite. You know what I mean? If you introduce Railjack that way, there's a chance that you go, damn, this is really fun. Because then you're not tied to it and forced into it. Because the minute you force somebody into it and you don't know if they like it, they're like, nope, goodbye. I'm out.
So
see ya.
The thing that they did to alienate all the people that were ready for more story in Warframe is that you get Railjack. If you'd already spent the 3 days or however long, fucking million years it took to build, because the build times were a bajillion hours. I think it was 3 days of build times. If you built your Railjack and you got your Railjack, you started playing, you needed to get all the way to the last area of Railjack. And then every few hours or whatever, a special beacon would pop up, and then you clicked on that. And if you got your special sword and you built that out of a completely different resource called ducats, and you built that and you had that weapon and you brought that specific weapon with you to this mission at the end of Railjack and the specific thing that only shows up for a limited amount of time, and you broke a crystal, you could get to the story content.
I watched you do this.
Yeah. If you did that, you could get to the story content, which people want.
Did they breadcrumb you on how to get to this?
No.
Okay, of course not. Kill me. See, from a brand perspective, I am upsetting now. But okay, someone said that they released a ground thing about a month before Railjack came out. Is that true? Did they do a ground?
Oh,
update?
They did a thing where you build the Railjack, which is kind of a thing. Oh, there's liches. Yeah, liches universally panned on release. Pretty much.
But I thought that's not really new content though, right?
I mean,
not really.
It
is. But...
Yeah, it is. It was a bunch of new weapons and stuff, but it was a grind that was arduous, and fighting the liches was not particularly fun, and it was 100,000 layers of randomness that goes into those ephemera that had a 5% chance to exist on a lich.
Perfect.
And if you generated a lich, it took hours to get rid of it. So if you got one you didn't want, then you were fucked, and you just had to kill it in order to get another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also the liches, before they changed it now, they included a punishment system where you had to get these other specific thing you needed to farm in order to fill your special knife with these 3 different codes, and then you basically had to guess the right code to kill the lich. And if you guessed wrong, they'd break your spine and kill you, actually kill you in the mission.
Yeah, I watched that happen a couple times.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
I don't see that, in my opinion, that's not releasing content that.
Also, it's worth noting that the way liches were initially shown off was that they were captains and leaders of crewing these large space fleets, and that you'd have to go after them in Railjack, which is not a thing and is unlikely to be a thing. Ever.
Ugh. So see, that's okay. So this goes back to we have islands, but not roads.
No cohesion.
We have islands, but not roads.
No, we don't. We hardly have boats.
We have rafts.
Yeah. We have a couple pieces of wood, and I guess they float. Oh, Freezer, feel free to talk. I appreciate you asking, though.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Sara, Freezer, Sara.
Hi, Freezer.
Hello.
So, okay, wait. So, am I wrong here? Am I off base by saying, could Railjack have been a different release if they released it with an extension of ground content that maybe may not have been innovative, but it was an extension of, and that's where your story was?
Okay. So this is actually a thing that I suggested that would have been much better, is if Railjack was its own thing, and the sentient ship where you get your story is actually all ground-based content in a new tile set, right? If they just took that and made it a node on the star chart, and we could ignore Railjack completely and just do that, it would have been way better, objectively. Because we could not do anything Railjack related and just go to the cool sentient ship, which is a cool tile set that has cool story, and there were things to farm there. If we could go and just do that, we'd have been like, yo, that's sick. and just ignored Railjack because it sucked.
Because hear me out. My thought is, right, if I'm looking at a game and I'm saying, okay, we want to innovate and introduce this new thing, right? This is the thing we want to introduce.
Yeah.
I would not hang my whole game on it, because I don't know if this thing that's totally different than what I've had for my player base is going to hit.
Right.
So I'm not going to wager the future of my game on this, especially when I don't have content coming up right behind it that's going to give them something to satisfy it. So I release it alongside. I don't lock any content behind it, but I maybe give bonuses for people doing it. Right? Yeah. Bonuses that incentivize people to play it.
Right.
But they still get their story and everything through the ground game that they love. And then if people hate it and people don't want to do it, then we don't expand upon it. But also, not everyone quits my game because they hate it.
Right. So,
because they hate something that's not my game.
Yeah. So a thing that goes along with that is that they showed off all this stuff prior to Railjack coming out. And Quiet Shy, she was I guessed it on her stream, her art stream, whenever I was there last. She has a video that was like about like all the promises that Railjack made that didn't happen. She has a video that's just going over all of that stuff. And Freezer, if you want to link that, thank you. I greatly appreciate it. She has a video going over all that, and it's great. It's a fantastic video. If you look at that, and then you look at what we got with Railjack, which Railjack is 3 areas, and it's all the same mission. Every single mission is just Railjack, and it's an exterminate, and sometimes there's a side objective that takes like 2 seconds to do. Occasionally. So every single one is on Earth, you kill 30 fighters, and you kill 2 of the big ships. On Saturn, you kill 60 fighters, and you kill 4 of the big ships. And in the last area, you kill 90 fighters, and you kill 6 of the big ships. That's the full breadth of the content that they released with Railjack as their big release for Railjack coming out after promising everything that's in that video. And I'll just give you a second to watch that video because it's short. Her videos are very concise. Here, how long is it exactly?
It's like 3 minutes.
3 minutes and 39 seconds.
Yeah, it's like 3 minutes. If you want to watch that real quick just to get like perspective on like what I just said as compared to what was promised, please do. And it took 2 years. Content drought for what? Yeah.
God, she's so sassy, and it's my favorite thing in the world.
Oh yeah, Shy's great. I love her. I've played Warframe since it came out. Let's all watch it. I would encourage you guys to click the link and go actually put views on Shy's video. Here, I will repost this in here. Yeah, also because I'm probably going to post this VOD on the channel. The video is Why Am I So Cynical About Railjack? It's Quiet Shy's video. If somebody remind me if you're watching this VOD or whatever, I'll put a link down in the description or wherever. I've seen it. Don't mind it again.
The main takeaway I really get is that DE is really, really struggling with the main idea of like them being at odds with what's the words I'm looking for?
What the players want versus what they seem to want to do.
Players want. It's the idea that if they spend like a year's worth of dev time on a thing, they want to make sure that they get the most out of a thing. And for the most part, like with like Plains of Eidolon, it kind of worked because they got like that big boon.
Right. But, and I would say for the most part, Plains of Eidolon was a success because I think a lot of people enjoyed it despite its flaws.
But the problem starts to arise when things start to take longer and longer. They want to really make sure that the player base gets the most out of a given thing, even if it's not making the content fun.
Right.
So, like, it needs to become grindier so that they can justify themselves spending so much time on a thing. Because back then, if something only took like a week or two to come out, and a player chewed through it within like a day, it wasn't a big deal.
Because it brought that player back.
Yeah, so they don't want a player to chew through all of Railjack within like a week, but then that makes Railjack very, very tedious and not fun.
Right.
Because they just look at the intrinsics just never going up at all.
So I think I'm of the mind personally that what they choose to make these very long grinds is not being chosen intelligently. Because there are certain things that they can make a very long grind, and it's not going to make a huge impression on people that very large grind is there, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, if you made it so that the combat in Railjack felt good, but to get the absolute best weapons, it was like a pretty long grind. Like, it was going to take you a week or whatever to get those really good weapons, but you could feel good about Railjack without getting them. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But locking the MR behind those intrinsics was just an out-and-out mistake. And then, like, also, like, obviously putting, like, cosmetic unlocks behind, like, a fairly long grind is fine. Obviously, they've done that in unreasonable ways, like we talked about earlier with ephemeras, like the flame ephemera and the exploiter ephemera and stuff. But, like, there are ways to be, like, especially if you're putting, like, pity timers on things, to be like, on average, players will spend maybe 5 hours doing this one thing. And that's maybe high. But if it's on average, well, even 5 hours on average is actually kind of poor. Like 3 hours on average, then like your top end players are spending like 6 hours doing a thing, maybe. And like that's like just respecting your time that you put in and having the important things that come from stuff be reasonable to acquire. Yeah, intrinsics is equally bad with focus. Yeah. Max intrinsics is meant to be a 2 months farm. Right. So max intrinsics could be a long farm, but they're not rewarding. The Railjack content is bad, and the skills you get from intrinsics aren't good enough. So all you're really getting out of it is the MR. So you're playing bad content you don't like to get the MR.
So I made like 2 like pretty big text dumps in the chat earlier, and I'm in my like message log right now.
Okay.
So the 2 things I was saying like a while back was, I'll just start with the second one. The community knowing their shit and how to consume content the fastest at a given time has been getting much faster, while DE has shifted long ago from being efficient themselves with the content that they themselves create.
Right.
They can't match our pace, so now that they're just trying to recreate the quote-unquote purple dragon high that they got from Plains of Eidolon.
Right.
And that's like the new one. So like the new content like PoE, Fortuna, Railjack, Liches even, like they have these massive dev cycles compared to like the 1 or 2 week ones from past.
Right.
So they end up having to feel the need to extend it. Like open worlds, they have the reputation. Focus system itself is like a massive form of extension of content.
Right.
Railjack, everything to do with it. It just is like being wrung out.
Liches, to get all the mastery, every weapon needs 5 forma.
5 forma. And because of that disconnect, where like players are very quickly becoming jaded to these big content drops compared to like the former excitement that used to be there.
Right, because the big content drops were like twice a year.
Yeah.
But like now they're like twice a year, and they're not really bigger. They're just they're going
to be like visually impressive, and it's going to be good, and the sound team's always doing good, but it's always going to come with, okay, but what's the catch?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but what's the catch? Because they're not releasing small little updates to keep people busy throughout the year.
And like I don't envy them, because having your players chew through content so quickly, like, we're just going to do that. And I know that's really, really tough to deal with.
Right.
But I don't want to sound like a backseat developer, but it's like less of an issue that your players are chewing through content when your content doesn't have such a huge amount of time invested into it.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
Wait, is that true though?
I mean,
so what we were talking about earlier,
right,
was that the amount of time it's taking them to make content is so exponentially larger because of the things that interact with the thing. So you develop one thing, and the factors you have to deal with, 40-something Warframes, how they all interact with not only each other but also that content, and then how they interact with each other based off of that content, right?
Right, and it causes certain types of content to not be able to reach their full potential.
Right. So I agree that there's definitely a possibility and that they're making things stretch further to allow them to have some kind of dev cycle that allows them to produce any kind of additional content. Right? I'm assuming that's what you're kind of getting at, Freezer?
Yeah, because, like, it also comes into the play that if you spend so much time, like, making Railjack, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's also taking away from time that you could be using to make other things that would, like, satiate the players across that time. Like, you think of, like, the Jupiter rework, bros.
Right. That like, lasted us, like, that was a, like, moderate update that lasted us quite a while because there were interesting things to go and do that were probably not particularly, like, dev intensive.
Like, I think of, like, the Jupiter update as, like, an old style Warframe update.
Yeah, that's fair.
That wasn't fueled by, like, Fortuna, or not that. Tennokan hype is the word I like to think of.
I would say the same thing about Disruption.
So what was it for those things that did that for you guys?
So whenever the Jupiter tile set was, they redid Jupiter and the tile set for it, as you might have imagined. And what they did is they added secret rooms to the tile set that had puzzles to open the doors. And in those rooms, you could get new Captura scenes, which were fun, basically cosmetic collectibles. And there were a bunch of new enemies to scan to add to the codex. And there were hidden little items all around the tile set, where if you scanned all of them, you, like, filled out and completed this little, like, story thing, essentially. And on top of that, that was whenever they did the soft launch of Disruption, and they added a boss fight with it.
I'll be right back real quick.
So there was, like, a nice variety of things to do. And, like, that also launched with a Warframe, and that Warframe is one of the best Warframes released in recent memory. So it was nothing, like, revolutionary that got added to the game, but it was a cool story drop with the boss, and it was a good new tile set that had, like, a lot of interesting little things to do in it, some fun collectibles, some new cosmetics, and Disruption was, like, reasonably good whenever it soft launched. It's much better now because they did, like, a polish update on it that followed a big ranty video I put out. So, like, what was the frame? Wisp. With the full launch of Disruption, we got Goss. But Wisp came with that boss fight. Yeah, and it took advantage of some of the best parts of the game. So, like, they essentially did what I think they should do more often, which is, like, take what they have and refine it and make it better. Like, go down the rabbit hole of, like, say if you're the Dynasty Warriors developer, right?
Right.
You want to make Dynasty Warriors. You want to make that game, but better, so that people like it more. You want to, like, perfect the formula and really, like, get it to where it should go. And I think people normally would say, like, a regular Dynasty Warriors game and say Hyrule Warriors. Hyrule Warriors is, like, a much better version of a Dynasty Warriors game, I would say, in general. And it's not because it's Zelda. That obviously goes into it. But it's a heavy refinement on what they were doing previously, and it works. And Monster Hunter has been doing that exact thing for a very long time. Monster Hunter World is realistically just a huge refinement and a graphics upgrade on what they've been doing since the motherfucking PS2. So I think that like the refinement updates and the updates that capitalize on what Warframe is already good at are not only, they seem to be less dev intensive, but they just like feel better. Because like we got another Warframe, and like 40 plus Warframes in, it's hard to make a new Warframe. That Warframe was excellent. It capitalizes on all the things you want to do in Warframe. Like, it's a support Warframe, which we hadn't gotten in a while, and like it does good things. The Grendel missions were the nail in the coffin that made me a weekend Warframe player. Yeah, because those missions are regressive. They do the opposite. So, Sarah, I want to throw this at you just to see what your opinion is on it.
Okay.
So, Grendel, new Warframe that came out, and to get him, you need to do arbitrations and get these points that you get for doing the arbitration missions, which you can only do if you completed every single node in the whole star chart. So only for experienced players, right?
Okay.
You get these keys, they're guaranteed. Super reasonable to get them. Not a long farm at all. When you do these missions, they were pitched as a challenge for players. Like a challenge, like a hard piece of content for you to go and like surmount this challenge that we're going to present to you, right?
Yep. For advanced players.
They are 3 missions. It is a survival, a defense, and I think an excavation. And all they did is make it a mission that's like kind of long, and you're not allowed to bring any of your mods. So none of the stuff that you've ever done in the whole game matters. Remove all of your progression. All you are is a husk of a Warframe with no mods. And that was supposed to be like the challenge to us.
So I'm gonna assume that y'all were all real disappointed.
Yeah, it was the most disappointing. It was lame.
I'm gonna assume that y'all all were just real sad.
Yeah, they disabled no gear, no operator, no mods, no arcanes, no upgrades of any kind.
I'm gonna assume. Yeah, we all big sads.
So you take those players that have completed every mission on the whole star chart, can do arbitrations, some of the hardest missions in the game that have unique rewards that are good and cool, and then you get them to get these keys to get this new Warframe, and the challenging missions just take away everything you've ever done.
Perfect. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't have a word. I don't work for the team. Did anyone tell y'all sorry? Anyone?
No.
Okay.
And they are still that way. They have not been changed.
I don't know. You know what I'd love? It'll never happen because there's a reason dev studios are very private about that stuff. But I would love to see what their team structure looks like.
Oh,
I really would.
I agree. I would love to look at it as well.
I was just seeing if y'all got any aftercare.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Yep.
Because I would love to see their team structure because I would love to see what their division of labor looks like.
Right.
Because I wonder if they are still working on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Because I wonder if they just go, okay, guys, now next, we're going to work on this next. We're like when they were doing Railjack. So, okay, guys, we're now working on Railjack. Everybody in the studio, now we all work on a Railjack.
Okay, so I have insight into this.
Okay.
And I cannot fully share information in this way.
Yeah, don't share anything you'll get in trouble for.
Right. But this is like a known thing that Railjack went through significant changes after Liches came out. And Liches came out like a month before Railjack. So there was a large overhaul of a thing that they had supposedly been working on for 2 years. And it was clear whenever Railjack came out that it had been rushed out the door. Just because of how like bare bones and simple Railjack is in terms of just like the content that is available there, and like there only being one mission type. It was very clear that like it anthemed.
So that means one of two things. Either A. Okay. Let me put this in terms of the way a smaller studio works, because I have a strong feeling.
Okay.
So the way a smaller studio works is, as you finish up, we'll just say Project A, right? So everyone's working on Project A, and then as departments finish up on Project A, they start on Project B.
Right.
But a majority of your team is still on Project A.
Right.
So people are starting Project B and they're finishing up Project A and they're polishing it. They're doing whatever they're doing to make sure it's ready to go.
Right.
Launch happens, and then ideally, in an ideal world, everyone from that day, except for a few skeleton crew members, hops over full force onto Project B.
Yep.
And then the firefighters fix any like immediate problems.
Right.
That happen with Project A.
Yeah. So
then
an important factor here to note about Railjack is that it was announced at the Game Awards, and usually DE will delay things. I am of the mind, and I have no confirmation on this whatsoever, that they had to rush Railjack out for the Game Awards because they had that announcement scheduled.
Oh, we agree.
Yeah, but continue with how the structure works.
I agree. So then the same thing happens in Project C, right? And so then basically you have a workflow where your design team generally is first on and first off of your projects, because they're the ones who are setting up. They're basically setting up your skeleton.
Right.
Your teams then come in, your art teams, your programmers, etc. Right? Who actually are responsible for taking what's in the design document and putting it from paper to game.
Right.
And then they move in this staggered pattern, right?
Yeah.
The way that Warframe is so disjointed, I worry that they are running like multiple small studios.
Yeah.
And so you have entire teams who, like, let's say they have 4 projects. They have that new open world, they have Railjack, they have Liches, and they have the rework. Let's say they have these four projects, right?
Yeah.
Those are all things that are in the works right now. I worry they have 2 teams.
Okay.
Two teams that don't interact with one another. They have 2 teams that are just responsible for designing, and maybe they have the people who worked on the first open world working on the second open world.
Right.
And then those people are also going to work on something else. Right. And so then they have basically these 4 projects split into 2 teams, and then they somehow have 2 people in the middle whose entire job is to balance these things with the warframes.
Yeah.
Nusi's post actually kind of feels potent here. Not from A to B, it's A, B, C, D at the same time.
Yeah.
And then
are they running A, B, C, D at the same time?
We don't know, but
it
certainly feels that way in a lot of cases.
It feels like they constantly have like 4 things being worked on at the same time, and then whatever one at that slow pace, because you're distributing your workforce essentially. It feels like whatever one gets finished at that slow pace first gets to come out, and it just it doesn't feel great.
There's no way there's no way studio doesn't survive that way. Too many hands have to touch a thing in order for it to come out, that they would be able to run it as that many different teams.
Yeah, like I doubt it actually works that way, but it certainly feels that way.
Right.
I believe you. I feel like there's 2. Can I tell you something crazy? This is crackpot theory from my very minimal knowledge on Warframe.
All right.
I do feel like there's 2 distinct teams.
That's probably
fair. I feel like the teams are split on content, because it does seem content is very hit or miss, and one of the teams knows what the existing players want, and the other team's in charge of making new things.
Yeah, the other one, the other team's in charge of making this like new shit. And the new shit team has no idea like what's really happening, and like the team that's like just capitalizing on what players already like do and want is making things like Disruption and the Jupiter rework.
That's okay. It doesn't matter. Okay, spoiler. I don't care how many things are announced at one time.
Right.
That doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't mean that there's 4 or 5 teams working on it.
Yeah.
They say they have multiple teams. I believe. Okay.
Yeah, but like clearly, very clearly, they were not working on Railjack for 2 years. It was announced, but they weren't working on it for 2 years.
Yeah. They probably have spurts of it where it's the
thing they're
where
doing.
they have like bigger portions, because there's no way. So the other, what you're suggesting, let's say they have 4 teams. There's a company of 200 and they have 4 teams of 50 people. That's
Right.
very like basics, like if we're really being objective. That's not how it works, but we'll just say that.
Well, yeah, just for the sake of simplification.
So fine, they have 4 teams of 50 people, and then what you're saying is that they would have to, in order to have 4 teams working on all these projects, they would essentially have to have 4 separate dev studios making one game.
Right. Which just can't really happen.
It can't.
It's it's like playing Overcooked 2, but you can't see your teammates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Steve said he's been working on Railjack Space for years. Okay, one person working on something does not equate to the studio working on something.
Zephyr Deluxe, by the way.
Yeah, Zephyr Deluxe, by the way. One person's been working on that for how long? 7 years?
This is
I'm
why I
concerned.
said I'd be interested in the studio and in seeing what the studio setup is, because
Yeah.
if they have that many projects actually actively in the fire at once, do you know what that means?
Go on.
Do you want to know what that means
I would
for
love to.
their programmers and their people that they are not going to hire 4 sets of?
That it's hell?
Hmm?
That it's hell?
That means they have to float.
Oh.
That means that they're playing tug of war. So basically, if you think about it, it's like having 4 camps on, like, imagine a floor of a building, and there's 4 camps, and everybody is pulling the people in the middle in 5 different directions at any given time to work on their project. So you have studio leads for this one project saying, hey, we need art assets and we need 3D models for A, B, C, and D. But then meanwhile, Project D is going, yo, we also need 2D art for this stuff over here because we don't have those yet and we're stuck and can't do anything.
Yep.
Oh, also, by the way, Project C needs modeling on this thing. And that is not livable.
So there's a great thing that kind of like coincides with this, and this, I think this is like a small example of this, but I feel like it happens a lot, where one person on the team is responsible for something that seemed to like not ever get like any attention from anyone else, where someone made it so that Wisp's animations all work with Melee and she can do her floatiness and her special animations and stuff. One person was responsible for that, apparently, as according to the way D attributed it. Like, one person just worked on it and did it and put it in. And other examples of that are, okay, so there's the Warframe Nova. We've said her name a few times, right? She has a 1 ability that has some orbs float around her, and those orbs can shoot out and attack enemies. Okay? She had an unknown mechanic that was never documented, never talked about, and was suggested as like a change that they could make to Nova for a long time, that was in the game that no one knew about because it is so obscure. So
I hate to interrupt you, but
yeah,
like, I gotta leave for work in like 10 minutes, so I gotta go.
Oh, it's okay. Later, Freeze Man.
Yeah, see you later.
See you, man.
Bye.
So Glenn was doing a stream and optimizing a bunch of the code for Warframes, and I happened to be watching. That's how I have this information. I happen to be watching, and I was in chat, and he went, "Oh, would you look at this? Nova's 1 gives you 5% damage reduction per orb floating around her to her health." So she does have damage reduction from her 1, but it doesn't work on shields. It only works on health. And that was never said. And it had been in since Nova's release, which was years prior. So me happening to be on that stream, I asked, shouldn't that be announced in a patch note or something somewhere? And the response that I got, I still despise, was, no, I'm sure you guys will tell people.
Hey, remember the point I made an hour and a half ago?
Uh-huh.
Remember?
Please reiterate.
Remember when I said Warframe expects their community to teach their community the game?
Uh-huh.
Remember?
She was released 7 years ago. It wasn't 7 years ago, but Nova was released a long time ago. And it was a few years ago that this happened. But, like, Nova had been in the game for a couple years at the point.
Why do we need to make game that people play when we can just do things and then community make people play game and teach them?
Yeah. Nova had drop issues.
That's frustrating to me. That's it. We develop a game that the community will teach them. Who needs new player experience? Somebody get more community members.
Mm-hmm. Nova was July 2013. I don't remember when that stream was, but it was years later.
You're all unpaid interns.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. Anyone that's trained a new player, you are literally Warframe. We're all Warframe now.
Your content.
You are content. You are the new player experience. Congratulations. Welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a hidden mechanic in the game that no one had found because the only way we could have possibly... Like, there was no reason to think about it. Because this special DR is the only damage reduction in the game that doesn't affect shields. It only affects health. So there was no real conceivable way for us to figure it out.
I'm sure. Can I tell you something terrible?
Uh-huh.
I'm sure if / when Rebecca found out that was said to you that way, she screamed internally for about 27 minutes.
I don't think she would ever have found out about that. That was on Glenn's personal stream.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying, like, if somebody clips this and sends this to her, she's going to scream internally for 27 minutes. Because no community manager...
Oh, because she cares? Is that what you're about to say? Because she actually gives a fuck?
0 community managers are like, oh yes, definitely say that to a community member. Yep, absolutely. Please do that. Thank you so... No, do not do that to her. Let her live in peace.
Yeah, but no, please never tell her.
It's like, yeah, absolutely. Because 30 minutes is excessive.
Yeah. Yeah, please do not bring that pain to her years later.
Yeah, she doesn't. There's nothing she can do about it. It was years ago.
Yeah. Reb's the only one who gets in their ass, though.
Well, yeah, but it's not gonna matter.
Can we talk about how unfortunate it is that, like, just like sometimes it comes through like the way that Rebecca just doesn't seem to be as respected as much as she should be.
Yeah.
Because, like, it fucks me up on a constant basis. And I'm like, we'll just talk about it. I've said it a multitude of times. It's the big example. Whenever Rebecca was on her solo dev stream before Steve showed up doing his Periscope or whatever, she was showing the new blink for where all the Arkwings were getting it. And she was, like, doing the cooldown and blinking and, like, waiting the timer. And she made an offhand comment that she is fully within her right as someone who has played so much fucking Warframe and knows that fucking game very well to go and say, I think the cooldown should be shorter. And the fucking response that came back from Steve's end was like basically, oh, well, she should probably use it for a little longer than a few days before she has an opinion about it. And it's like, are you for fucking real? Like, I was insulted. I'm not Rebecca. I am not Rebecca. Me and her are different people. I was insulted. Because, like, what the fuck? Like, that's outrageous. Like, I'm not quoting him, but that's essentially what he said. And that's fucked up. Like, okay, Rebecca knows Warframe and cares about Warframe. Like, her opinion is not invalid because she's only spent days with something.
Okay, but...
Uh-huh.
If we just take a second. This is a couple things, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, but a couple things. First of all, what makes Rebecca good at what she does and the reason everyone respects her is because Rebecca is incredible at rolling with punches and incredible at being gracious.
Yeah, that's fair.
So So I don't think so let's actually roll back and look at motivations. I don't think Steve's motivation was to disrespect Rebecca.
Right.
Steve's
fair.
motivation was trying to firefight something that he knew was coming.
That's,
So Steve looks at this. So they come from different places. She's incredibly intelligent. She knows the game and she knows what the players want. Steve, on the other hand, knows how much people respect her opinion and know how many people are going to agree with her regardless of what actually is true. Not, mind you, this is not taking away the fact that she knows what she's talking about and she's right.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak for this particular instance, but I'm assuming she was right based off of your feelings on it.
Yeah.
So,
well, even if she was wrong, her opinion is valid.
Agreed. But the problem is that she's in a very influencer type position.
Right.
So there are going to be people who agree with her just because she agrees, because
she's in the position she's in.
Who she is.
Okay, sure.
Right. So Steve has to take a step back and go, okay, we need people to give this a chance before we actually know if this needs to change.
Right.
So I think, and can I just add that heads of studios, are shitty at talking. There's a reason community managers exist, and that is because heads of studios, creative directors, all of them can't fucking English to in a good fashion to anybody ever.
Okay, fair enough.
So when you
which is why Rebecca is the host of the dev streams.
Right. So all of this to say that I don't think it's so much that he was disrespecting her as he was trying to make a point without making a point and didn't know how to English it in a way that didn't come across as it did.
Which I hope is the case.
It's just incompetence.
Right.
And I incompetence at speaking, which, not everyone can be good at all things.
Yeah. But the way it came off, well, it gave me a real feeling in my fucking soul.
And that's fair. He may not do the speaky well, but he do a good shooty. There you go. So that's number one. Number two, let's go the other end of it, right? And say that he totally meant it disrespectful. He blew it off, He's like, what's this woman talking about? She's just the community manager. That's a common sentiment in the games industry. I won't put that on Steve because I don't know them or their relationship. But just in general, that is a common problem in the game industry. A community manager goes, yo, this is an issue. And the dev team goes, well, you're not a programmer. You don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
All right, 9,000 people are yelling at me every day. I don't give a shit. Shut up. Sit down.
So for me, I absolutely see your point. And I think there's certain times where I think that sentiment could be closer to correct, let's say, right? If you have a community manager that let's say has just joined the team, right? Or something along that nature, and they have played very, very little of the game at large, or don't know that much about the game, and they have a strong opinion about a thing, it's fair to take them a little bit less seriously at that point, right? But I think a lot of it for me is the position that Rebecca is in as such an experienced person with Warframe. She has all the experience you could ever want with managing the community and playing the game and knowing it inside and out. And that's the big thing, because it's totally possible that there could be a community manager that is not as in tune with that kind of a change, and you could take that opinion less seriously than you might from someone else. I think that's fair, but it's not fair to just generalize community managers that way, obviously. But it's specifically vile to me in this case because I know Rebecca, and we as a community, because Rebecca is very, very well known, know Rebecca, and we know that she definitely has a fucking valid opinion.
Sorry, I was reading something.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Also, I don't mean necessarily like a valid opinion, but a well-knowledged opinion that you should take more seriously, I suppose. Because obviously,
also
opinions are valid.
Mm-hmm. Can I make a quick?
Yep.
Call on the play. Everyone, take a second and slow your roll. Just first of all, Rebecca and I are friendly. We have been in the same place at the same time. But her and I have never, and I mean ever, discussed Warframe, her job, or anything to do with anything. So I have zero insight outside of me. I honestly respect her as a fellow community manager and as a human, because she's a great human being from every interaction I've had with her.
Okay.
But I'm just making sure. Okay, because I didn't get all of the context, that's what I was trying to put together. But I just want to make sure that everyone is like, I'm not, when I'm giving like, could be's and what's between Steve and Rebecca, I have no inside information into that.
Right.
So we all good?
Okay.
Sorry,
also,
I just wanted to make sure that we all loop that.
Just to clarify for everyone, this is Sara. She is the brand manager for Gears for Breakfast and the community manager for A Hat in Time, and also my lovely girlfriend. So yeah, so for anyone that wanted to know who we are discussing things with, she has much experience in the games industry.
Yeah, I bring a perspective of someone who's, I guess, seen both sides of it, right? Because before I was a brand manager for a studio, community manager for a game, I was the community manager for Warframe streamers.
Yeah.
So, but I don't play the game for reference. So it's a lot of him educating me on like the ins and outs of the game, and then me kind of discussing it with him.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Brozime is Rebecca. That's a hard sell. I know, isn't it? It's because we're not the same person.
Brozime could not be nice enough to be Rebecca for
Accurate.
more than about 10 minutes.
Accurate. 10 minutes is giving me a lot of fucking credit. You know that?
I'm assuming it's at a TennoCon and you're around a bunch of super fans.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Even then, you have to understand, I was on stage at a TennoCon and Megan asked me point blank, do you still think Titania's bad? And I went, absolutely. Stood up and turned around and the back of my shirt said, it's fine.
Okay. 3 minutes. All right, 3 minutes. And that's assuming he doesn't speak. Also, this man enjoy eating too much.
I love eating.
And not working out.
Oof.
What? I love you. I do.
That's the good shit. That was amazing. I remember that. I really enjoyed that. It was couldn't have been better if I had planned it. Oh, it's wonderful.
Good God.
Rose is naturally large anyway.
Yeah,
I could work
tough.
out and stuff,
guys, by the way, if you really like any game, I say this every time we talk about this, but I'm gonna say it again. Serves repeating. If you guys love a game, any game, especially Warframe, and you know they have a community manager,
I think I know where this is going.
Message them. I don't care if you message the contact at whatever.com. Message them and just say, like, if they've sent out a good tweet or like just something that you're like, damn, I appreciate this, please message them and say so. They need it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you, community managers, if you ever wonder what a community manager does, they do a lot of things and it varies studio to studio, but a lot of what they do is anything that the studio quote unquote messes up or anything, they take on the chin constantly.
Yeah, they get the whole thing.
This man has seen some of the things I get sent on a daily basis, and it's wild. It's wild.
Oh yeah, they're a ginormous buffer for all the toxin,
and it's constant. So if you could be like just one bright moment in someone's day, please
Please try and do that.
There's a lot of good to being a CM. You get the best of the best. You get the interactions with the most amazing people and the people who are great and wonderful parts of your community, but you also get the absolute most vitriol,
the most vile shit
that that no human should get.
Yeah.
So give them a digital hug and just be like, hey, listen.
Hey, listen, you did good.
Yeah, you get doxers, you get a lot of stuff. So just a hey.
Yeah.
You're great. Thanks for all you do for the community.
Yeah,
right? That's all you need.
It's worth noting and reiterating that doing like horrible shit, like fucking death threat nonsense and like just like all kind of like threatening and that kind of shit, and not just like providing like feedback. It's not good. It's the reason why whenever I go to criticize things, I really like to have a solution. Which, like, I've offered a number of different solutions to a number of different problems during this stream, obviously. And there are solutions that I personally think could be implemented reasonably and do well. Which is always helpful.
Let me give y'all just a very mild example of what a day interaction can look like.
Oh boy.
Just gonna give you a real mild personal. There you go. If y'all want to just see what a real mild interaction can look like.
Oh yeah, that shit. Oof. I remember the day you were messing with. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just.
Yeah.
That's just a little like a little.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, that's very mild compared to some things, but I'm just, and the bigger the game is, the more of that you get. So
right.
Just, if you can just be a positive, like, it's not just not enough to not be toxic. If you could just give one little, like, you did good, kid.
Yeah.
Do that. Take the 5 minutes out.
Right.
All right, I'm done now. Sorry, I'll get off.
No, that's super fair. It's definitely worth noting. And I mean, like, I think, obviously, a lot of people in the community see me as the person that is like, I am the turbo negative man, because I offer a considerable amount of criticism on the game, and I generally, I feel like I have a more realistic point of view on the game, but that can often be cynical. So there's that. But whenever things are very positive, I like to think that I'm like very positive about those positive changes, which a lot of people don't take note of. They take note of only whenever I say things are bad. But that's definitely like a thing. Like, like I do say when things are good, and there are good things in the game. Obviously, I still play it. If I didn't, then maybe I would have fewer good things to say, obviously. But yeah. What the fuck is wrong with that person? Yeah, people are awful, turns out.
I mean, it's just that's just what it is. It comes with the territory. We do a lot to prevent it, and we do a lot to make it as minimal as possible. But that is the internet. That is the realistic thing, right? So just a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
love your community managers. They do what they and mind you, community managers are also the ones who will fight for you.
Yeah, very much so. That standard fare, unfortunately, no one seems to care about. 90,000 positives, there's one negative. Yeah, like I get that a lot, but like realistically, like it's very easy for me as a content creator, and this is a learned skill, to really brush off that type of thing. And community managers have this skill as well, in kind of a reverse manner, actually, where if I see someone say that I'm always negative about something, I know that's like just not the case. Like because I know the content that I make, and for community managers, like it's kind of the reverse thing, where they look at all of the feedback and know that not all of it is negative, even if it can feel that way. Because you've probably had that before, right, Sarah?
A good community manager can do that. It's hard though.
It's difficult. Oh, it's not easy.
So your content, even watching your content sometimes, like if I'm really honest, are you prepared for me to be really honest with you?
Absolutely, I am.
So even watching your content sometimes is hard for me.
Why is that?
That's because sometimes when you deliver, it's less so because I know you, but when we weren't as close, it was harder for me to watch sometimes because sometimes you deliver something, and it's more because you deliver it for humor, and you deliver it in like the most biggest way possible to get the point across. Right. While also trying to keep some levity and humor. Yes. That it can come across a bit harsh. And so it's hard, and I can understand, like, if I had gotten that kind of feedback about Hat, and I have, but like if I get that, it takes me a minute because I care so deeply, not just about the game, but I care about my player base so much that when somebody comes in at me that heated and that hot, that I have to take a minute and to like, before I can brush it off, I have to like take a minute, take a deep breath, and pull back what is said to get to the root of the thing. Right. Yeah, that's fair. So it's a little bit harder because we care so much about. I don't know if that's the case. Rebecca's amazing, so she just might be able to like do this instantaneously, and I wouldn't be shocked. But like, because she's just because of the scale that she's doing this type of thing on in a lot of ways. Right. But like, we care so deeply about both sides of this, and yet we don't have any. Very often, we don't have much power to affect change. I'm lucky in the fact that I have much more ability to do that because we're a much smaller team, and I can just go to my boss and I can say, "Hey," right? And I'm sure she can do that too, but it's harder with the bigger the company gets. Right, because whenever you're dealing with 200 people instead of whatever the size of Gears for Breakfast is right now. Right. Like, obviously, there's a large size disparity. Right. So you don't necessarily at a 200-person company know everybody like you would in a much smaller team. Right. So I'm sure it just takes a second to like, right? Like it just takes a second to go, okay, and then move into it. So because those harsh things, they're still hard to hear. Oh yeah, it's like, for sure. I didn't make the game personally, right? Reb didn't make the game personally, but like, it's still her baby. Yeah, for sure. Right, and so it's still my baby, and so to hear anyone just say something wild and off the wall, it takes a second to go, whoa, all right, and then you go, okay, wait, this is so and so, and I get how they mean this, and I know that they have respect for me and the people I work with. Yeah, and because then you have to temper it with like whatever your personal opinion might be. Like for example, my literal lowest rated Warframe on my tier list that I put out is Nyx. That's Rebecca's favorite Warframe. So, like, obviously, that's not going to be, like, a fun time to hear, but it is what my opinion is. Yep. And that's okay. That's an easier thing. I just more mean, like... But like, that style, where, like, it's at odds with what you might think and, like, the way it's delivered. Being... Like, you'd have to translate, like, why is this way? Like, why does this person think this in some ways? We do have to. Well, Reb does agree that Nyx isn't a good spot, though. Yeah, really? And so it's. I don't know. Apparently, she loves Nyx, but she knows. I think she knows, but I don't think she's ever actually said that, which I doubt she would. It's Hammer. She said so on stream. I think it was in prime time. Interesting. I would love to see that clip. I appreciate so and can we appreciate look, I'm just Reb appreciation stream. Can we just talk about how the thin line that Reb has to walk every stream? Oh yeah. Reb has to please everybody. Reb has to let the players know that she understands how they're feeling while also making the people she works for happy and understand that she's promoting the game because truth, that's a community manager's job. Part of it is marketing and promoting, right? We can't be like, oh, like here's a dish. Yeah, it's unavoidable. That's just how it goes. That's just how it goes. And so the line she has to walk every dev stream, and she manages to keep that hype while also letting people know that she's real and honest. Yeah, it's very tough. Fucks me up. Extremely tough. I want to be Reb when I grow up. But also, I will say a thing about Rebecca is that
A thing that she does that has always been baffling to me, in that she can't do it without it being genuine, is that she is just endlessly full of hope about, like, just Warframe conceptually. Right? Like, she
has to be.
Yeah, like, well, she has to be, but also, like, it's not a facade. Like, I would know.
No. I just mean she has to be. It has to be genuine for her to do what she does.
That's fair.
Like, I don't think she would work for. I don't think she could work for Digital Extremes. I don't think she worked for DE, doing what she does, going to bat for them every day, if she didn't genuinely feel full of hope for them and the game.
Yeah, and like the future of the game and all that. Yeah, that's
I don't think anyone can do that.
That's fair.
We've seen community managers who are faking that.
Yeah, you're right.
We've seen it.
We've been to some PAXs.
You've seen me scream about it.
Yeah, I have. We won't go into that.
No, you're right. You're right. Nothing. Spoiler chat.
That's
nothing upsets me more.
Yeah, nothing upsets her more than a community manager that doesn't care. Not even one single. I don't think I've ever. You get very. You know what you get about. Okay, so. Do you know what your personality becomes whenever you discuss that topic? I don't think I've ever told you this.
Oh, this thought of
you become a pot of chili.
Wait.
Go on.
I don't know. Do I want you to say this about me?
You do. Because I think you'll agree. You become a pot of chili where somebody left the heat on just a little too high, so it's fucking bubbling.
Are you hungry?
I am hungry. But also, that's true.
Okay. Oh, good God.
It's true. You know I'm right.
Chat, what you don't know about me is I just like to be loud.
You fucker, you're always hungry.
Oh, man. Yeah. Listen, I have opinions. That's all.
This is a Brozime stream, of course he's hungry.
Okay, let's not do call-out posts of CMs, because a lot of CMs are great, and a lot of... Here's the thing, you can never really assume a CM is bad. Well, you can kind of suss it out, but you really can't assume a CM is bad, because sometimes
they have no choice.
Sometimes they are under direction, and they have no other choice.
Like the, it's not a call-out, because I don't even know who it is, and I'm pretty sure they don't work there anymore, so whatever. The Anthem community managers, they had nothing to work with. They had nothing to work with. Literally zero. But almost certainly they were directed by a higher up to try and spin it positively. Was that a conceivable thing that anyone could do? No. But they have to try.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And also, my favorite is when they're like, the CMs, they're like, oh man, the CM, this patch note, this wasn't included, and this wasn't included, and this was included. Guess what? Sometimes we don't get that choice.
Yeah. The people still bought and tried Anthem. I mean, I guess. But that's not really relevance for, like, how the community managers have to spin it whenever the feedback is, like, fucking a million negative. They did a decent job of obfuscating, at least. Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, all credit. Like, I'm sure they did as best a job as they possibly could. But like, I'm just exemplifying that, like, sometimes there's only so much you can do.
Yep.
Like, you can be the best community manager in the world, but if you're like, hey, I'm trying to do PR for this hot shit in the middle of a road, and I'm just trying to make sure that nobody runs it over, like, guess what? Like, you're fucked.
I have had to in the past, not necessarily in my current position, but I have had to in the past sit down with a boss, and this is something you can't, okay, I work with indie teams. Right, and so as such, there's a lot more freedom to talk to higher ups. When you get higher up and you're hired, when you get into a big AAA company and you're hired as a CM, honey, you're the lowest man on the totem pole. You are literally served the community shit sandwich, and you get the perks, but you get paid nothing, and you deal with a lot of bad. But it's great. It's if you love it, you love it.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, Fallout 76 CMs deserve hazard pay.
Yeah,
have gotten it.
You're right.
But anyways, but so I have had to sit down, and because in a lot of companies, community managers are not considered part of the dev team, and as a result, they're not included in part of development. So what that means is you have somebody on your team who had no idea how the game was developed and was not clued in until maybe right before release, or was only included on like a very distant level.
But they have all of the community feedback, all of it, and so they know what the community is saying
to answer for it. And many of them are not entitled to make a judgment call on whether or not they can say something. So then what you end up with when you're like, man, this community manager is here not answering my question. What the why do they suck? Why are they terrible? Here's what's happening. You're going blah 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 question. They're going, I don't know this answer. So then they go to their boss, who by the way, is handling 20 other things and trying to figure out how to fix the game. And you're like, hey boss, so-and-so on the Discord wants to know why blah, 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 blah. Then the boss goes, well, the reason is because of blah, 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 blah. But you can't tell them like that because that doesn't make any sense. So can you tell me how you're going to say that to them? And then we'll review it and make sure it's okay. And in some companies and we'll run it by legal depending on what the question is.
Yeah.
And so then you go, okay, here's 3 options on how I would like to word this. And then your boss goes, I hate the first one. The second one's okay. And we'll see. Now let me run this by legal. So then they run it by legal, and legal goes, you can't say that.
And then, but no. Even if legal goes, you can say that, it gets back to your boss, who never follows up with you.
Yup. And so then finally, but it's not always legal. It really just depends on the question. But sometimes your boss just goes, I like option 2. So then you give option 2, and it goes over. Let's say it goes over well. You give option 2. Customer happy, but then another customer goes, yeah, but if that, why this? And then you have to go back to your boss again because you have no idea what happened during development. You're like, hey boss, so-and-so on Discord wants to know why this. And you're probably asking, well, why doesn't that developer talk to the community? Do you know why the minute the developer talks in the community, they have 97 people adding them going, everything gets buried, and then you're starting over again.
Yeah.
This is so.
How many answers, guys? How many answers do we generally get whenever people at Steve or other developers? If you're leaning on 2, maybe, then yeah, you'd be right. -3, sometimes.
So that is the problem with a lot of community managers. I have had to sit bosses down and go, I need to be involved from day 0, and I need to understand from day 0
why things are the way they are.
I don't have to talk. I don't really have input. I'm not going to tell you how to make your game, but I need to be at least included in these conversations.
Yep. And just so you can actually answer some fucking questions.
And I have been in the situation, and I'm lucky that I can do this because I don't rely on community. I have 2 jobs, and I don't rely as community management as my primary job. But I will sit down and I will say, if I can't do this, I can't do my job.
Right.
And that's not something every CM can do, but it's what every CM should be allowed to say.
Yeah. Or at least have like mostly that kind of freedom. Even if there's like a few types of things.
But they should be able to say that to some extent.
Right.
Because so many people don't understand that community managers need that, because we can still run it by the bosses of what we need to say.
Right.
But at least if we understand how to answer it, we can skip steps 1 and 2 and 3 in that gross process of like, hey, what this?
Yeah. I love you, mother of Warframe. This is not, I want to clarify, this is not Rebecca, this is Sara.
but you should still love Reb. She's great.
Yeah, Reb is great.
Bye now, Reb.
Yeah, this is not Reb.
One day
this
I'll grow up to be like Reb.
Yeah, one day. We talk about how many D reps have Twitch streams. What do you mean? I mean, yeah, they're allowed to.
They're allowed to. I mean,
Sarah can't be Reb. She's a sock.
She's a sock.
Oh,
yes.
Man.
Wait, Doku, you weren't here earlier. Brock and I found out that our name could actually be Sock. Like our ship name could be Sock because it matches with all of our.
Just post the sock emote in chat a bunch of times. You know you want to.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. If you're gonna. Okay. All right.
I love it so. I fucking love it so much. The canon. God damn it.
Sock.
CMs are a literal filter for the community. Absolutely. Thoughts on maybe DD doing TennoCon every 2 years to make it so they have less crunch downtime from running a whole con. Crunch is a whole nother conversation that we do not have time to get into. I would like to go into that. It is currently 6:30 a.m. and we got into this wonderful, amazing, gigantic conversation. And I love it. And it's been great, honestly. I'm glad we had it. But we should stop. If you guys enjoyed this, me and Sarah are gonna be doing a podcast at some point. So consider this an episode -1, 0? I don't know.
-1.
Yeah, -1. Whatever. But yeah, so this has been a fantastic time. Thank you all for joining us. I've greatly enjoyed this discussion. It was wonderful. A podcast with a time limit. Yeah, we got a little bit of a time limit. We gotta cut it off at some point, because otherwise we're just gonna go and it's gonna be noon. And it's gonna be like, wait a minute. Hold on.
This was really unintentional.
It was super unintentional. Did not mean to do this. But yeah. That's that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this stuff. I'm gonna post this discussion whenever it started separately on the channel and see if people like it. So if you missed any part of it, it was very long, like 2 hours, maybe more. So there's that. But yeah, thank you all for joining us. I appreciate it. And we will see y'all later.
Thanks for having me.
Always.